Good evening. It's a live BIC episode, which can only mean one thing on a Monday. Carlos doesn't want to edit. Not going to happen. Nope. I'm not going to be rendering. Not going to be doing the video thing. Not going to happen on a Monday. Now, for those of you that are checking this out, either on the replay or live, you may notice that we are Eric-less. Eric has currently indisposed. Yes, Eric is currently indisposed. He's on the run from the authorities. He claims that it's related to an awards thing, but it sounds to me like he's running from the authorities. Is basically what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Now, the good news is, Brandon, fortunately, I am a professional. In addition to being a man of peace, I'm a professional. So I have prepared something in absentia to make up the difference. There we go.
That works. He's still here.
Yep. He's still here with us in spirit with Ray Bork. It is episode 180. Love me some even numbers. The hobby does indeed roll on. 180 episodes of this. And on top of that, obviously AMG is one of the big supporters of the channel. We always appreciate their help. I'll quickly put the scrolling ticker across the bottom. AMGcollectibles.ca, AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. The funny thing, though, is that this upcoming episode will be the 120th episode of that. So, I like my milestones, Brandon. 180 episodes of the BIC podcast. 120 episodes of the AMG podcast. That is 300 podcast episodes between those two things.
Mm-hmm.
But if anyone has ever checked out my wrestling channel, they would know that once upon a time I had a podcast with a buddy of mine, and that podcast, Brandon, went north of 150 episodes. So I am getting, and then I'm also on episode number 10 of Cardboard Cynics with Dan. So I am rapidly approaching 500 podcast episodes over a multitude of formats in different places and times and places. That's a lot of podcasts.
All upload to Spotify too. On time. Perfect.
Most of them were just basically. This is the one that this is the one that draws the short straw all the time. For the record, the Cardboard Cynics is bang on. The Cardboard Cynics one is up to date. It's good to go. This was always months behind. Always months behind.
Well, you're only on 10 of Cynics. Come on, you haven't really had time to fall behind.
It's also every other week.
Episode's not uploaded.
It's also every other week, Brandon. So literally, it's actually easier for me to be like, upload. There you go, done, taken care of. It is what it is. The other one, the one that got the 150, all of those are on Spotify and on the podcast thing, so that's there. And then all the AMG ones, that one I used to do the audio version of it, but it didn't really catch on with folks, so I just kept it on the YouTube. So that was easy enough. That one I didn't have to. Give me Hodges, give the video a like, appreciate it. Absolutely, hit the like button. And when Eric in absentia pays for it.
Yep.
Now I know that we're doing this. Yes.
We made sure to tell him, since he's pushing so hard for adjacency, this awards thing.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to have some adjacency. What, are we getting an award tonight? Or is he going to join from the stage to present us an award? I mean, what's going on here?
Well, with our luck, he's probably going to rush the stage. He's probably going to do like the Kanye West thing. He's going to be like, somebody's going to be winning an award. It's like, you're great, but you don't deserve the award. And it's like, and all of a sudden he does a speech.
What if he's just there because he was nominated and then doesn't win again? Like the Grammys and that kind of stuff. Like, would he actually tell us that?
Oh, he'll tell us that. We'll hear it from here. If I take this off, I'll actually be able to hear it all the way from Massachusetts. He'll be whining and complaining, ranting and raving, demanding lawyers. It's insatiable. It's incredible. I don't even know what to tell you. So regardless, what I'm going to do, even though this week, since we are Eric-less, we're gonna save the silly card of the week. We will come back with it next week. But in absentia, I would like to congratulate both myself and Brandon for winning this week's silly card of the week. Indeed. However, for the sake of decorum, even though he's not here, I will relay last week's results. For officialness, Brandon, we will complete and conclude last week's results so that we have it on there. So we got to have that. It's important. Just so we meet our obligations. Funny Side was victorious with 47% of the popular vote.
By a hair.
By a hair, indeed. The other two are actually pretty close. The Eagle Dance Party and the Fashion Icon, very close. But we do count every single vote. It is the only true democracy in this world. Let it not be said that we do not complete the entire democratic process. Good evening, Jeff. So yes, we do count that. And then this week, you can just assume it was something hilarious, poignant, and moving all at the same time.
Eric with some guys like eyebrows and funny hair. Who knows what I would have picked this week. Carlos would have had, something cool. So yeah, y'all can still vote. Just go comment down and put your votes in the comments. Yeah.
This is facts. Now, what I'm going to do is, since we have that, there are a couple of things that I want to touch on. And obviously, folks in the chat, Jeff and everybody else and so on, feel free to go back and forth with us. That's the fun part. We'll engage you and we'll have a little bit of fun with it. But I do have a couple of things we're going to go into. So I think it'll be pretty good. I'm glad you asked, Dan. I'm glad you asked. So Eric is claiming that he is in a award show. I'm assuming that's his new way of saying that he is out on a heist.
Or maybe the award is bracelets.
Mm-hmm. He was awarded an
It was a
ankle
very, very rapid, quick text message that we got. Like, you could tell it was text quickly.
Mhm.
You can't really tell sarcasm all the time or anything. You could tell that this text message was rushed. It was rapid. And he hasn't responded to anything since.
It's true. It's true.
Not even like, I hate you or anything like the norm.
Usually we get one of those. Usually we get at least one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Or F you guys or, something. There's been no response. It was a hastily typed text message. You could tell. And nothing since. So,
and sometimes when he's really feeling bold, you get an F you, I hate you guys.
Yeah, that's pretty common too.
Yes.
And a clip of him falling off his bike.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's true. It's a tough one, Dan. I don't know what to tell you. Trying to think. Can't think of one. Again, we can only assume it's a euphemism. The Burrell, good evening. I vote for truancy, Eric. That's right. Facts. But like I said, to make up for it, we do have Eric there in the corner with Ray Borg. So, and his lovely University of Guelph hockey uniform. And that seems appropriate, Brandon, because we do have a game 7 tonight.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you were keeping catching up.
I was good on my picks except for Vegas, and tonight, I have the Habs, but so far I'm 2 for 3.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Well, right now Montreal is up 2-0 on Buffalo. Right now Montreal is up 2-0 in Buffalo.
Yeah, I was gonna say I just don't. Buffalo can't have nice things. So for them to be this far,
this is barely a thing. Yeah.
For them to be this far is kind of impressive. So,
yeah, I stand by my original. Buffalo, aside from the 98, 99 Stanley Cup final, Buffalo and I have no quarrels. We have no qualms. I would be more than happy for them to have a nice run. Brandon, I am a magnanimous man. Aside from the 98, 99 Stanley Cup, that ended on the most legitimate goal of all time, just to be clear, in Game 6.
Could you imagine? Would Buffalo still be a city if this game went down to the wire? And let's say they had the most open net possible.
Okay.
And the shot just happened to go wide right.
See, as soon as you said the open net, I assumed you were wide right. At that point, they just burn it down. Just burn it all down.
I don't know if the city exists if that happened.
All that'll be left is Tonawanda. Sunny, scenic Tonawanda will be all that remains. The burning embers. That's a tough scene. Yeah, so I do not wish ill upon the Buffalonians. Like I said, aside from the 98-99 Stanley Cup final, which, again, most legitimate series-ending goal in history, just so we're all clear on the same page about that. Again, I harbor no ill will. I would love for the Bills to do well. Like, I have no qualms. I have no issue. But it just doesn't seem to happen. There really are no nice things.
Nope.
Whatever Indian burial ground they insulted or they affronted, apologize. Apologize. Find someone and apologize profusely. Just letting you know. So I do have a couple of pickups, so I'm going to talk about that. And again, folks in the chat, you're more than welcome. Reach out. I've got a couple of small items, so we'll have a little bit of fun with that. But I did grab a couple of things that were recent pickups, so I'm going to share those. And the last one actually is going to come with a little bit of a story because it actually talks about something that I've discussed in the past, and I still think it's worthwhile. So we'll get into that. First one is actually a baseball card that I picked up just this weekend. So we got another Juan Soto. We got one of the dynasties. So personally, I'm trying to see if I can get a dynasty for all the teams because I'm kind of liking. So I didn't mind the whole thing with the Padres, the brief Padres experience. Plus, I like the uniform. I like the color and everything with it. So I was like, oh, that'd be cool. So I figured I would pick up the Soto. And you can get these still relatively inexpensively, I think, all things considered. I think they're nice looking cards. So I'm going to try to have a representative of the different teams. I haven't gotten a Yankees one yet, but that'll probably happen at some point. And then we'll try to get a Mets one when they basically make one as well. And then we'll have a little group of them. I like to have a little cluster of these. And I'm enjoying some of the dynasty cards recently.
He should have the WVC ones too.
That'd be fun, but I think they're getting kind of expensive. And I know there's a couple of guys. So I'll tell you this. Obviously, I talk about the player collectors and everything. There's a few that I follow that do Soto, and they spend ungodly amounts, like ungodly. I've got nice
there's
stuff.
one dude that I think has every logo man.
Yeah, I think I follow that guy on Instagram. It's ridiculous.
Jay Strizzo.
I follow him on Instagram, and it's absurd. And then there's the other guy who was on you. He's been on YouTube as well a little bit here. Jay Ermis or something like that. That dude pumps Soto. Listen, we talk about your Jason Robertson pump. That dude pumps Juan Soto cards.
Yeah, there's a couple guys who's got. I know Strizzo unloaded a bunch of his rookies, some nice ones.
I think it was, but I think he secured another deal for another one of those logo man.
Yeah.
So here's the second one. Little Dallas Star flavor. Yes. So this one was interesting. I like the double helix. I think they're nice. I've got the base version of double helix. I want to get the gold version because that was a little bit tougher. But this one's kind of neat. This one's a red one. this is the kind of an e-pack thing. It's a redemption. Or it's one of the. Let me get the word right here. I got use the correct verbiage.
List.
Yeah, they've got a couple still. It's the red achievement. The red achievement is the one I'm talking about. But the red achievements are all numbered, which is nice. So numbered to 50, which is pretty cool. So I've got that on there. So actually, and I got that for a pretty fair price. It wasn't too bad at all things considered. So pretty neat. And then hopefully I'll add the gold one to kind of complete the trio. So that's the second one there. And then the third one here, this is the one that I wanted to talk about for a second. So this is kind of an interesting thing. This is from 2000, 2001. This is Be a Player Ultimate. And this is the emblem. Okay. Now, obviously, a terrible photo. Sometimes you shouldn't overexpose it, but regardless, I'll explain why I was interested in this. First, it is an emblem card. I like it, obviously. Playing Days Medano. Great. That checks another box. But here's the part that if you don't know, you don't know. And this is a Be a Player problem from the early 2000s on. These are a print run of 10. The emblems are all 10. Automatically, it's 10, 10, 10, 10.
So
here's the thing. Go ahead.
Just to take a guess here by looking at the card, because I want to see if I can figure out what is different about it. Is this what they would consider gold by the outlining and everything?
So this one, there is no parallel. The emblem itself is the card. Yeah, it's just the fact that's the emblem is the out of 10. So it's just
looks like a Dark List.
It has a little bit of that look, yes. Now, here's the thing with this one. Because it was Be a Player Ultimate, the cards like this came inside a Beckett style holder. It wasn't a Beckett holder, but it was a Beckett style holder. And if you notice, this is in a top loader. So I've actually got another picture. This is not a card that I bought, but this is an example so you can see what I'm talking about. Here's an Alexei Yashin of the exact same subset. But as you can see, it's in a Beckett style holder with a Be a Player logo at the top. And this is the important part. Let me zoom in so I can show you. Game use emblem. Here's the problem when they did this. We knew it was going to happen, and we talked about it back in the day and said, well, that's a fatal flaw because you don't number the cards themselves. The only way you know one of two ways. Number one, you've done your research. Number two, you were there. You know that these are out of 10 because as soon as you lose the holder and the label, you lose the serial numbering because you know it's out of 10. But this one, like I said, this one's 4 out of 10. And the entire print run was 25,000 cards, and they were all inside of these Beckett-style holders. Well, obviously, that Medano, the holder's gone. But as a result, you may not realize, unless you happen to know that this is out of 10. So the end result, Brandon, is that I got a Medano emblem, Playing Days from 2000, out of 10 for less than $50. Because they just look at, oh, that's a patch card, that's cool and all, but like, oh, what's the big deal? What's the out of 10?
Yeah.
I want it because for my collection, I'll still take it. Like, just to be clear, I'll still take it. But obviously, missing that piece, number one, you lose a little bit. But number two, you don't know what you have. If you don't know what it is, you're just looking at it, it's like, oh, it's a patch card. Okay, but what's that actually worth? And it's like, well, it would have been worth more if it had the whole original holder. Good evening, Keith. So that's why I say knowing the stuff is critical.
You don't know what the serial number is now.
Correct.
Like, it's out of 10, but you don't know which one. So
correct. That's right. Yeah, so you do lose that. So, and that was always the fatal flaw of that design, because as soon as they did that, they never numbered the cards themselves individually. So, number one, on the card, they don't tell you it's out of 10, and number two, they don't number them on the card. Some of the later iterations, they did number it on the card a little bit, which is helpful because then, if for some reason the holder gets chipped or it gets damaged, and you have to take it out of the holder, because at this point you're not going to be able to replace the holder, and then the label's gone. So, which one out of 10 is it? No idea. Couldn't tell you. But like I said, as a player collector, I'll still take it. Still going to be part of my collection. I'll accept it. I'll put it in a one touch and move on with my life. It's not a big deal to me, but it is. But you do lose some value. And also, there are a lot of folks that don't know that it's out of 10. So you potentially lost those bidders because they have no idea what they're looking at.
Right. It's just a 2-color patch.
Correct. Exactly. So that's why I say, like, it's stuff like that Be a Player always they made some nice cards, but they also made some perplexing decisions like that and missed out on some opportunities. So I needed to take a minute and kind of explain that one, because it's like, otherwise, oh, that's a nice card. What's the big deal? It's like, well, a little context helps a little bit there. I know we talked about it. Did you want to share a pickup?
Well, I want to let everybody know, breaking news. First of all, my ComC order, there's only 453,199 ahead. So inching slowly along.
Hold on, we got you.
And I did purchase a card, but it has not arrived yet, so I cannot show it. But I can tell you what it is if you would like. It is a cut above Metal Universe Maverick Borg. Yep. 1 in 267 packs with a 30-card checklist. So, and I actually asked Carlos if he'd seen one at the expo to let me know. One finally popped up on eBay, and I was able to get it for about $8 total. So, yeah, you can do the math there. Doesn't make sense on a tough insert. But I did make another pickup. It's not a card, but I'll share it. It is actually a little mini fridge that I thought was really cool. I seen it on Facebook Marketplace. Walking Dead collab with Mountain Dew. And my wife was actually looking at it when I was driving to pick it up. She was with me. And she said that surprisingly, apparently only 25 of them were made. So that's pretty cool to go with my Walking Dead collection and everything. I just thought it was a cool piece, never had seen one, and she always jokes around with me telling me that I need a mini fridge in the card room or in the basement or whatever. And so I went to get it, and then she started researching it and everything and found out it was not a public release. It was a promotional thing to promote season 8 in 2017. And apparently extremely limited. So was pretty happy to add that. So
absolutely. Good evening, Sven. Good evening, Mike. Man, Jeannie's here. I know you were doing a live with Pepino Man, so good timing on that. Absolutely. So quick aside, I actually want to show. I did pull from the Discord. I actually pulled the image you got on the other card that you were talking about, just so we can all bask in the glory here. There it is. Big money, man. Big money.
Broke the bank on that one, and it's a card. See, this is the kind of stuff that, like, talking about buying singles and stuff, and I know people say it all the time, but like, what is a box of Metal Universe running today? Probably 150 plus.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and this is 1 in 267 packs, again with a 30-card checklist, and even Demidov, a couple of his have sold relatively cheap, and he's like the Chase rookie pretty much. So, and I love this insert set, a cut above. I've talked about the die cuts and all that, and you can't get much more die cut than a saw blade. So for the princely sum of $7.90, I'll take it. So
it works. I like it. Sounds fair. All right, let me get onto a couple of these comments here. I just want to make sure I've got this set up here. Okay, perfect. Let's go. Yes. So I was actually going to mention. So part of the reason I was wanted to get caught up, I wanted to show that first. The other thing is, like I said, since we are Ericless, I've got a couple of things that I want to talk about, but I will open the door to the Hams, the Dans, and even the John Manginis, if they so want. Say the word.
Guest appearances.
I am offering a link to whom it may concern. We didn't specifically plan it out. Eric, like I said, bailed on us because he's going to an award show, which is a nice way to say
awards show.
Yes. So, like I said, I still got stuff. And we're going to hang out for a little bit and chat with you guys and then hang out in the stream, and we'll do that. And I did, for folks that are following the channel, I did do a video responding to Mangini's response, because we have got to have response inception. Got to have it. It's important. So you guys let me know. I like the back and forth. It's all good. Like I said, I'm just going to offer. Ham is somewhere being Florida man, doing Florida man things, probably chasing after a gator or being chased by a gator, or maybe both. Both could be true. I've seen enough Scooby-Doo. Sounds good. So I actually added you to Instagram, John. So I don't know if you've seen that, but what I'll do is I'll send it there. If you check your Instagram, I will go there in a second. Let me do that. And I should be able to manage that, and we'll go from there. And if you need it somewhere else, you can always let me know, but I'll start here. We'll go with this. Interactivity. There we go. Perfect. So that should work. And you let me know if you have any trouble getting the access to that link. Then we can discuss. So I was actually having a little bit of fun. So that was the thing, Brandon, is that when I was looking at part of those pickups, that Ottinger was a good example, because it's like, I came across it and I didn't realize that they had that one. I was like, yes, absolutely. Awesome.
Yeah, I can't remember if I was trying to see if I had bought one or if I had it on my watch list, but I've definitely seen that one. Mm-hmm. That's how I knew it was the achievements, and well, remember that one, I know it's a lower product, but MVP, I bought that Ottinger that was out of 10.
Yep.
So
Zach, Zach, that's a risky move. I've been down that road. I've done it, but it's a risk move. You gotta be real careful.
Buy ComC so maybe they can figure out how to ship quicker? Because I really do miss going on there and buying stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. It couldn't hurt. It would work out.
Or maybe Amazon buy them.
Bezos bought it. Listen, if Bezos bought it, you'd have it yesterday.
That's what I'm saying. Could you imagine the fluidity of cards if we could just get the shipping thing solved? I really enjoyed going on there buying stuff for the collection, but here we are.
Look, I'm in favor of it as I'm in favor of it as long as my Amazon. I'm in favor of it as long as my Amazon Prime is usable. I want my Prime to be usable. I'm just saying, I already got Prime, so I gotta have it.
The transaction fees, though, like the intake fees and the transactionals from the sales, and they would probably make a good bit of money. They would find a way to make it very profitable.
Well, so here's the thing. The jokes aside, the biggest thing that they have going for them that would be a game changer at that moment, they know how to run a warehouse with a ton of SKUs. Like at this point, they'll do it with robots or whatever it is they're going to do, but like they know how to run a warehouse with a ton of SKUs and be able to pick anything they need to pick, get it into a box and get it out the door one way or another. They've mastered that. They know how to do it. So if nothing else, they would be able to figure out how to make sure that happens. Cards, obviously, there's just so many different SKUs because of the way ComC does it. But if anybody knows how to do that many SKUs for all kinds of stuff and get it into a box, they can do it. I just don't know how much power you want to give to Bezos, but it'd be just another thing. Don't find your messages. Okay, Dan, why don't you give me then do me a favor, Dan. Why don't you forward me the number, and I'll send it to Mangini that way. Like I said, the only thing I don't want to do is I don't want to put it in the chat because it could get a little risky, a little risque. Whoever I usually need to give the link to, I already have contacts with, so it's fine. I'll get it directly through. So if you want to give me
I did not buy the Ottinger Red. I did buy a Miko double helix.
Oh, did you? Nice. Okay. Okay, that's fair.
I knew I bought one Helix, and I had that Ottinger probably on my watch list.
I like the cards though, and the thing is, so Brandon, I got it for like $40, and there's still like 3 copies available. They're
Yeah,
hovering
I'm
around
going
that
on
price.
now to see if it's still on here.
Yeah, no, there. So maybe not that exact one, but I assure you, there's 3 more. There's 3 more on there right now. I can tell you that right away. Company's going to go away if people keep talking about ship times. So it's never their business model. No, but the collectors do want the cards though.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. So what Zach's saying here is true, but here's the thing: the cards that are on there 4 years are cards that I never intend to ship.
yep.
The cards that I am purchasing with my credit and doing with that, yes, I do want them to ship. I don't let them sit for years. If you want to let them sit for years, that's your business. Yes, I do need them now because I actually want the cards.
I might actually send you a screenshot just so
Sure.
you can see.
All right, sounds good. Let me just, while you're doing that, I'll get this from Dan. Let me set this up. That way I can add this so it works. Yep, that's fine. Okay, cool. Should be good. All right, so give me 1 minute bear with me a moment while I'm just taking care of this. Got to multitask here. Let's see if we can make this happen. Yeah, this should be fine. Perfect. Okay, cool. But yes, we do not care what he wants. His presidency holds no sway here. He will take a text message and like it. I didn't vote for him. All right, so here, I'll take care of this. So let's just be a minute, and I will handle that. But yes, let's see here. There we go. That should handle it. Perfect. All right, we should be good. Beautiful. All right. At least you got a precise number. I appreciate that. We appreciate the listen. The corruption I'm in favor of. I can appreciate that, Brandon. That's the key. I can appreciate the corruption of it. But like I said, I didn't vote for him.
You at least you kept count, Dan.
That's important.
It makes it fair because you knew exactly how many times.
Yes, that adds legitimacy to it. It's not like the silly card of the week, though. The silly card of the week, though, we're a lot more on the ball when it comes to that one. We make sure that the vote count makes a lot of more sense. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. So I've got it here. Did you want me to share it, or I'm looking at it right now? Did you want me to share
I was just showing you because I knew I had it on my watch list, and it shows right there. I started watching it on March 9th.
Yeah. Well, there was a specific copy. There was a specific copy that was already at a pretty good price. So I'll tell you this. This is one problem I have with their watch thing. Obviously, because everyone's an individual SKU, if one shows up that's actually cheaper, you obviously can't see it. You can't see it. You don't know.
Yep.
So it's still on your watch list, but at the same time, one came up that was already like at a good price. So I actually made an offer, and they accepted my offer. And that's how I wound up with it.
I was just showing because I knew I had it on there, and it showed like how long I had it on my watch list. So.
Oh yeah, well, I think it's a cool card. I think the out of fifth for the out. What I'll say is this: I like the red. Like I like the silver. The red will look really cool with it, and then I want to get the gold to kind of complete the trio. I think it'll look good.
Golds are out of what 25, but they're not numbered. I think.
I don't know what the print run is, but the odds on the golds are ridiculous.
Yeah, I think they're
really tough. Yeah, because I don't think they ever. It's one of those ones where they're not going to announce a print run. It's just too obscure. But I give them credit for it. I like it. Indeed. So, chat, let me ask this while I'm getting everything situated here because we're moving some stuff along. What's going on with you folks? What do you like this day? I put the title, The Hobby Rolls On. That's very open-ended, very broad. The reason I did that is because the hobby does roll on. We're talking about cards we picked up, thinking about picking up, or doing research into. We're talking about. That's kind of how this works around here. Just the hobby rolls on. Stuff happens. Prices go up on some of the things. That sucks. We got these platforms messing about. That sucks. The grading is slow. That sucks.
Yeah.
The hobby rolls on. But the hobby rolls on.
And I was, so you're right. They didn't specify a print run. I was thinking the checklist. The checklist is 25 cards.
Yeah.
So I knew there was something there, 25, but yeah.
Did you see how crazy the odds are on it though?
Yeah, 2880.
Yeah. So now, and then you go back, work backwards and look at how many packs per box and such.
Yeah,
it's like,
and
it's actually
EX
really tough.
just wasn't opened a lot. I mean,
exactly.
Look how long it took me to get that EX Exceptional Robertson.
Exactly. So that's right there. That's the fundamental problem. And that's kind of what you have to work around. So you do it, you do the best you can, but unfortunately there isn't much you can do. So you try your best and see what you can do.
I wish they had a better autographics checklist. They've not really put a lot of good names on those in any of the sets so far. I mean, Obi's on there, I guess, but a lot of the names. Well, Medano has an autographic. Have you ever seen one pop up?
The autographics, no. I haven't been able to get one. I'm sure it exists, but it's one of those things where I don't think I've been able to come across one. I've been trying. It hasn't been for lack of trying. But I've got the save search done. It's just not showing up for me. So I don't know. Killed it in auctions last night. I like it. Sven says John, Bob, Larry,
Billy,
Mo, Curly. That's right, Sven. You show them. I like that they're sitting around just waiting. I almost kind of like this, Brandon. I kind of like that the chat's there, and I'm like, I'm trying to put you guys to work a little bit. You know, when Eric's not here, look, we can make fun of Eric all night, but he's not here. He's in the corner.
He's getting awards.
That's
I
right.
wonder if it was like most
I'm trying to make you all do a little
fall
more.
off his bicycle. If that's
Brandon, this is the problem. They're lazy. I think so. Here's my opinion. I believe that the reason the people become lazy and complacent is because they're looking to leadership. They're looking to the president. And if the president isn't putting in a full effort, what are the collectors supposed to be doing? They're lazy, John. What have you done about this?
How you guys doing?
Good. How are you,
John?
I'm technologically challenged.
It's all John. Listen, I'm happy to try to accommodate, try to help out a little bit. I do what I can to assist.
No, a while back, so I started to use Instagram, and I really don't care for it at all, so I don't go on there.
Fair enough.
And I used to get, there was a place for messages, and then one day I went on there, and I just don't know where to go to find them anymore.
Okay.
I
do you do it like on your? Do you do it on your phone?
In the middle,
you
I
do it
on
your
my
phone?
phone. Yeah, it used to be.
I'll send you a screenshot. I'll send you a screenshot. I'll show you exactly where it is.
All right. I use Facebook mostly. I have a page for all my cards and everything on Facebook. So that's I kind of limit my social media to there and YouTube.
Yeah, I use it just because I put the Instagram right there. So I find it's the easiest way because I literally have it on every stream. So if somebody wants to reach me, it's right there. It's a lot easier to find me. So I'd be like, just message me on there, and it keeps a copy so that I can check later and be like, all right, what did we talk about? And then I can actually check. It's there. It's my weapon of choice.
So I watched your response video to me. I appreciate you being gentle.
I do what I can. I am a man of peace, John. I've tried to say this repeatedly to people. I am a man of peace. I've gotten this bad rap. I blame Moynihan. I can only assume Moynihan is talking quietly underneath. He's like, he's so mean to me. No, I am a man of peace. I try to be nice. I try to be gentle, and they're trying to besmirch my good name.
Well, I'm happy to finally be on with you anyway.
Excellent. So part of the thing that I liked about the video, though, is that it actually made again, I do believe in the infinite content loop, but it also was so your response was better for me because then I can talk about individual pieces. We can talk about one piece at a time. I go, all right, I agree with this part, and here's what I'll add to this, and then that's conversation. We can actually have a discussion.
Right, and you expanded on some things that I was very shallow on.
So it works it out. So, overall, I think a lot of what you expressed, though, I saw in the comment section, a lot of what you expressed, a lot of people feel that way too. I always try to separate, though, and this is maybe a question I'll pose to you here. I try to separate two things. I can, hopefully if someone watched that, they'll understand that I like to have a discussion. I like to go back and forth, and I can listen to what you're saying, and then maybe there's some validity to this, but maybe there's a little bit more to think about if we want to expand it a little bit more. But one of the things, though, that I noticed, a lot of times, though, people immediately jump to how they feel about it, which is not invalid. I don't say no, but then I'm like, but that's only one element of it. How does it affect the total, the whole? That's why I try to give a couple of examples. I go, sometimes there's some of these things where we don't expect it to be. That's why I use one example in particular. I said the pandemic, the prices all went up. It was crazy. It was ridiculous. It forced some cards out of hiding. So, I didn't want to pay a higher price. That's actually not a good thing. But what was a good thing is it actually gave me a chance to actually get the thing, because otherwise it had been sitting and hiding in darkness for years, and I wouldn't have had a shot at it if something hadn't coaxed it out of hiding.
Yep.
So it's a specific case, but it's one case where actually the money did benefit me indirectly, not the way I would have expected it, but it actually did create something for me.
Yeah, and you and I both were pointing out that there's no absolutes, right?
Yes.
And when you make statements, they're usually taken very literally. And as you said, depending on your feelings of it, you're going to take it a certain way. And there's always those nuances and room for further discussion.
But John, you have to remember, you're never allowed to hobby the way you want to hobby. You have to hobby the way everybody else wants you to hobby.
Right. Well, that's the other thing, though. If you give your opinion and say, I do this, and it's not what other people do, they take it as you're saying they shouldn't do that. They should do that too. Or I don't do this, and they take it as they shouldn't do that, or I'm telling them not to do it. You know what I mean? And you have to be kind of careful on here, because when you give your opinion, you're not necessarily telling other people what to do. You're just sharing what you do and how you feel about things.
I think it's fair. I think that's why sometimes I do it almost cartoonishly, because I'll be like, I have to preface this. I'll go out of my way. I'll be like, especially when this is the really good one, when you're actually disagreeing with a specific person. If that person is prominent or some person's notable, then I have to go almost cartoonishly out of my way. Go, all right, listen to me. I'm sure they're a wonderful person. I'm sure, they sunshine and rainbows. I'm sure they take care of puppies. Like, I have to go out of my way to explain. I am not attacking the character of this person. I am disagreeing with their argument.
Right.
But I must spend 5 minutes explaining to you how wonderful they are, so that then I can make my damn point, because that's all I'm trying to do here.
Social media now is just so combative. That's what sells.
Yeah. So it's always become kind of fun. Like, I had a lot of fun with Beckett, because he'll go out and say something, and a lot of people are very attached to the Beckett name once upon a time. That's why I have to really go out of my way and be like, listen to me. If you have great memories of looking at the Beckett guide, and this is, one of your things, it's one of your functional things, and you met him once and he was nice to you and he signed your Beckett magazine, I am not taking this away from you. I just want to state that I listened to what the man said and I disagree fundamentally. And this is why. So it's very interesting. It's kind of fun when you enter into that realm. That's basically what you find yourself having to do. So it's problematic. And Dan's right. Bob Boozle is right at the top of the Illuminati. We know how this is. This is true. But yes. So let me ask you this question, though. Obviously, you enjoy that format, and so do I. Where then, we'll have a topic that I find myself doing it less. So your video actually opened the door for me. I've talked about some of these things individually, but it's kind of fun for me to do it that way. But I feel like I can go back in the archives. I've done videos where I've talked about almost all of these things at one time or another. So I've kind of gotten out of the habit of it, just because it's like, I don't feel like rehashing the same old ground again, unless someone presents maybe a novel angle. Then I'm a little bit more interested, or there's some kind of a little bit of an added approach. If we're doing a dialogue back and forth, I'm more interested. But me just doing a random video being like, let me talk about this topic for the 47th time, I'm not as interested.
Sometimes you just want to get something off your chest. The thing with me is I have a dry sense of humor. And oftentimes when I talk about those, and I have been doing way less too, I treat them almost like a comedic monologue, like a stand-up routine sometimes. And it's not always, not everybody gets it. A lot of what I say is tongue in cheek.
I think at this point you might have to put a disclaimer. I have a rule number 1 for a reason. I don't know if you know what my rule number 1 is, John. It's one of my favorite things. I have rules of the hobby. There's the commandments, but I have rules. My rule number 1 is people are stupid. Rule number 2 is to see rule number 1. So I'm a big believer in my first 2 rules that pretty much explain 3/4 of what goes on.
Well, people seem to not understand sarcasm very well anymore either.
No, they don't. Starting with my own daughter. I took in a teenage girl, my wife and I, and when she first moved in, she didn't get any nuances whatsoever. No sarcasm. She'd take everything I said literally. So I had to train her.
Sometimes there are a few folks that are beyond help, and they're beyond hope, and that's why sometimes I kind of roll my eyes. I'll sit there and I'll have and the thing is, sometimes it is sarcasm, and sometimes it's sarcasm though, but it's also I'm actually saying what I mean. and being sarcastic and also simultaneously, no, the message I'm delivering is the message I'm delivering.
Yeah,
There is a little bit of it with it as well. It's a little bit of both. A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
I grew up in a family and with my friends, and we just joked all the time. You know, we have fun, and so much that comes out of my mouth is I'm joking around. You know.
But you got to remember though, we came up in the era of like the yo mama jokes and all that, and the kids today, their fun is this stupid 6'7" thing. Like it shows the comparison there.
Yeah, you have to even be careful what you joke about these days.
That's very true as well, because it's taken so serious.
Right.
So look, that's basically what I have to do with Eric. I imagine if I allowed him to say 3/4 of the thing, we'd be canceled, we'd be double canceled, we'd triple canceled.
Well,
maybe that would get us back on the air. Who knows?
Boozle brought up a good point about, Mangini having 99% of his original bones, but I think we should poll the chat. Mangini has a sub hobby outside of cards that he shared with everybody, with his, your nunchucks.
Oh.
Eric's got his sub hobby of riding bicycles.
We're crashing.
You would think Mangini's hobby would be more likely to hit yourself in the head more than riding a bicycle. But I have to think that Eric might actually have Mangini beat on that tally.
Is that right?
Well, I think the nunchuck, the point is not the point with the nunchucks is not to hit yourself. And whereas Eric's goal in life seems to be to crash that bicycle as often as possible.
Do you wear a helmet when you're using the nunchucks?
No. Never did. I learned with real ones, because there's no consequence with the toy ones.
Like, listen, Eric,
I'm a product of the 80s, man. I grew up a Bruce Lee fan. So back in high school, we started messing with those things.
Well, so I think to your point, Brandon, the problem that we have is that when I was really small, we grew up in Panama, and then we came to Canada after the fact. And my dad specifically remembers he never put any of the little protector things on the electrical outlets. So if you happen to touch it, I'm not saying it got touched. I'm saying it's happened. And Carlos Senior is like, just allows this to nature to take its course. It's like, you're going to learn.
Now we know
that was Carlos Senior's approach. That's Carlos Senior's approach.
When you're learning nunchucks and you make a bad, stupid move, there are consequences, and you don't do that twice.
Yeah. That was the thought process. Like, well, if you electrocute yourself, if you burn yourself, you'll learn. If you don't die, you're usually pretty good. You're good to go.
Well, which doesn't kill you, makes you stronger.
That's right.
If Miss Cassie, if she happens to watch, just let Eric do it, and hopefully he won't do it again.
No, hopefully he does it again. I'm rooting for him to do it again. Do it 2 or 3 or 4 times. Maybe the first one was a fluke. That's different. When Eric does it, I'm kind of hoping he does it a couple times. And I'm hoping there's a camera around is what I want. That's how I'll make my money. I'll get rich.
Yeah, when I first started seeing kids wearing bike helmets, like I felt a certain way about that, because we grew up, jumping things and riding our Huffies around. I had this friend, and he was like a freaking daredevil, and we had this big steep hill, and he got these wooden boards, and I had these 2 neighbor kids. They were brothers, and they had these toy cars, and he had watched Fonzie jumping over buses or something. And he lined up the cars, and he put a ramp, and he started at the top of the hill, and he came down, he hit that ramp, and he went flying. He cleared those cars by a mile, but he failed to keep his front wheel up, and he landed on that front wheel, and he rolled over, must have been 10 times, and he jumped up, and he was walking real cool, like he was going to go home. And everybody's like, you okay? You okay? And as soon as he got past everybody walking home, he just started bawling. But we did all kind of crazy things. And as many times as I wrecked on my bike, I never hit my head. I'd always cut my knee open or something.
Well, a lot of it when it came to the bikes was speed was one part of it, but also what's the angle when you hit whatever it is. Because if the angle's wrong, then there's nothing you can do. It won't make any difference. It's you're screwed either way.
I've just never seen anybody land on top of their head.
I have. 100%. And what happened was they went to the hospital and they stayed there a long time. That's what happened. There was nothing there. Probably some of them turned out like Eric because I don't think they spoke correctly after that. But I have 100% seen. But again, it's the angle. It's the angle that you actually go off of it, and that was really the thing. It's if you kind of just slide off, then you roll, and if you roll, then that's less of a problem. But it's it depends on whether you've got time to move the bike a little bit, because I used to fly off the bike, but you can slide if you actually have just enough time to turn a little bit. You can actually roll, and if you roll, then it's not as bad. It still hurt, but that's
here in
that's not as big a problem.
Here in South Carolina, we don't even have motorcycle helmet laws. Everybody rides around without a helmet.
Oh, I think I figure if they figure at that point, if it's a motorcycle, if you go flying off, then whatever happens, happens. There's not much.
Yeah, that's what they said. I had an attorney friend that was saying that they basically, it's not going to help you, so they just eliminate it.
I still
like,
remember,
like statistically, it doesn't do anything for you.
I remember in school, they had the insurance people and stuff come in because you're at the age to drive and all that, and they told us that the helmet actually is. It's because if you land a certain way, you're more likely to suffer less damage. But overall, the averages were that the helmet was going to impact your neck and break your neck, so you likely weren't going to survive anyway. So
makes sense. I know, with seatbelts in the back seat, studies show that people who don't wear seatbelts in the back seat survive better. Not in the front seat, but in the back. For whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, you've got a couple of seats in front of you. Again, it's just it's speed, it's the angle, it's everything. It makes people feel better. It makes people feel better, but like you're still taking a chance either way. If your car gets crushed, your car gets crushed. It is what it is.
Well, the new cars like to have the stupid annoying bells ding if someone in the back seat doesn't. I learned that. My daughter rode with me and in the new car, and it just started chiming away because she hadn't put her seatbelt on yet. And I'm like,
it's forcing you to be less safe.
Yeah, well,
statistically,
as soon as you started, if there's somebody, it notices who's in what seat, and if they don't have their seatbelt on, it will yell at you the whole time.
I'll tell you what, these new cars, it's hard to get into an accident. Somebody almost has to drive right into you. There are so many warnings, and
you
can see the side of your car on
the first time
cameras.
The first time it jerked the wheel. Like, I went to go around a vehicle and it jerked the wheel. I was like, what the hell is this thing? Because my past cars have never had that stuff. And now it's like,
you got to turn that off. Late at night when you're switching lanes, that's a pain. Got to put your turn signal on.
Yep.
Well, Brandon, since you got the new car and it was recent for you, like at this point, no, your car is connected to Skynet. At this point, the Terminator will tell you where to drive. It'll tell you where to drive and how to drive. You will follow. You will comply.
So we got a Tesla a few months ago, and we were going like 10 hours. Sorry, not 10 hours, 10 miles to dinner. So for kicks, we decided to let it drive us. That damn thing drove us there and back without touching a thing. It would pass cars on its own. Like we're driving, and all of a sudden it puts a turn signal on, and we're like, what's going on? Gets in the left lane, passes a car, gets back in front of it, parks itself. And if you want it to, it'll come pick you up at the door when you're done. If you're at a store or something, it'll come pick you up on its own.
I don't need all that. I want some control.
You can yell.
Yeah, there was somebody, I saw some woman, this dumbass got arrested for a DUI. I guess she was drinking, and so she put her Tesla in auto drive and fell asleep and got pulled over. That's not funny, but it's funny.
Well, rule number one.
It's funny because she didn't hurt anybody.
Yeah. Rule number one. I've got rule number one for a reason. It covers everything. So Mike, I've been trying. I actually was enjoying letting this conversation roll because I challenged the chat. Brandon, did I not challenge the chat? I said, well, what would you like to talk about? John, they don't follow instructions. I said this a minute ago. As president, are you going to teach these people how to follow instructions? I gave them the complete carte blanche. whatever you guys would like. You want to talk about a hobby thing, you complain in the comments section. I'm not talking about you, but I mean in general. You, the collective you, complain in the comments. You got ideas and topics all day long in the comments section. I ask you to present something, and here we are.
They get shy.
Nothing.
And we were talking hobbies. We were talking nunchucks and bicycles, you know.
That's right.
I said sub hobbies.
I just always enjoy how quiet it suddenly gets when you actually ask people to be like, all right, so what is it? But then if I go to the comment section, plenty of ideas. I see lots of people with plenty of ideas. They got lots of opinions about everything and anything. Morgan, let's about riding a bike, the sports card hobby. That's a low bar, but sure. That's a low bar, but yes.
Yeah, you ever get those comments that are like 3 paragraphs long?
Yeah, Ziggy. You mean other than him? You mean other than him? He used to write me a book every single time.
Well, some of the comments are like, it's easy to upload a video. When you have that many thoughts, you should probably make a video about it.
I think once you get to a certain thing, yeah. I think a lot of people have the ones that always used to be interesting to me were the stream of consciousness. It would be like almost like they've got an idea, but like it's like they're developing I used to remember reading a couple where I'm like, I feel like you're still developing this thought. Right now, all I've got is your introduction so far and like part of the body of the boat work, and I don't think you're ready for it yet. I think you need to refine it a little bit and maybe come back to me when you are going to explain to me what it was your point was, because I don't know, I can't figure it out.
Yeah, and a lot of people get their blood boiling in there. They're fired up when they're typing.
Yeah. All right, so Dan's got a request. We actually have a hobby topic. Hold on. Let me read a couple of these and then we'll get into it. So I'll come back to Dan's comment here. Hang on. Let me click a little button there. All right. Carlos feels more like a Friday night than Monday night. Hey, it's a holiday Monday in Canada. This is Victoria Day. It's a holiday for me today.
What is Victoria Day?
Well, it's for the Queen. Queen Victoria, specifically. That's what the holiday's for.
I thought that, but I thought that was too obvious.
Nope. When it comes to, we have civic holiday. Yeah, we have civic holiday. We have civic holiday when we need the generic one that means nothing. That's a different one. Emmanuel in the Space Rewind time. That's right. Good evening. Like the Mangini dunk on that basket behind him. That's right. I'm going to comment on, oh, yes. I appreciate you. I like that. 100 million wasted. Now I have another 200 million. Anyone know how to get more employees to work on graded card orders? Yes. Yes, I do. I like that. All right, let me quickly go back to Dave's comment here. I want John to go off on Gordy Bongers, calling himself the voice of the vintage side of the hobby. We talked about this in Cardboard Cynics. So listen, this is a request. This is a request, John. Like, as president, I think that you got to do what you got to do. I'll support you in this, please, by all means.
I don't know who that is.
You haven't seen the sports card nonsense? He's a young guy who kind of part of what amused me. I enjoy. So I'll explain it this way. I enjoy that Dan gets worked up about this. It's fun for me. So on sports card nonsense, Gordy Bonkers is this young guy who has kind of hovered around the vintage side of things, and he's not the first one, but he's the most recent one. But now that he's on sports card nonsense, he's on a platform. So like that's one of the things with that. But then what offended Dan more than anything else was the quote piece. He has started interviewing people, including one of the videos we cited. He actually did an interview with Mike Baker. So he was talking with Mike Baker, one of your personal Jesus, I believe from the video you said, personal.
I call him Cardboard Jesus.
Yeah, well,
he's the chosen one, the only flesh and blood human on the planet who can judge eye appeal. Makes him the chosen one.
But the chosen one came on and talked with the voice of the vintage side of the hobby. So you've got this kid, and again, I made the joke. I said, I guarantee you, 3/4 of the guys who are watching this, some of the OGs have been around longer. Like, I'm younger than most of these guys, but I've been collecting vintage for more than 30 years. I was collecting when I was a kid. Like, I've been collecting. I don't talk about it all the time because honestly, it is what it is. I collected it because I wanted to, and then I do it. To me, it's not a big deal. But I understand why they would get offended that some of them have shirts older than him, and then they'll look at it and go like, how are you the voice of the vintage side of the hobby? You probably don't qualify. But it does ruffle them the wrong way. Dan in particular ruffles the wrong way, hence the question.
Yeah, I heard you guys talking about it. I watched that episode, but I didn't know much about it.
Yeah. He doesn't really have
I don't follow them or watch them, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think really the issue what it came down to is that unless someone watches those networks, he hasn't earned the street cred yet. So it's one of those things where like he has brokered some deals and stuff like that, but There are lots of dealers who have brokered deals. Like that's not a big, by that definition, Ash's kids have brokered some deals at a card show. Does that make them the the voice of the vintage side of the hobby? No, not really. It just means you're involved, but you're a participant.
During COVID, there were a lot of self-proclaimed voices of lots of things.
Yeah, and I think that's
the beautiful part about YouTube. You can come on here and claim to be anything. And
I think at one time I was the voice of SGC because like that's how my channel grew. And like when you go out and not even to a card show or anything, and somebody's like, "Oh, I know you. You're the SGC guy." Okay. he only did one podcast episode. Somebody had to relay the information.
It does amaze me how seriously we all take the hobby. Some of our topics and so forth, it's like, we're curing world peace or something.
No, we're creating chaos.
It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fun.
John, I have no idea what you're talking about. We take this very seriously. This is a very serious production, a very serious place. How do you think I became a doctor? I can't write your prescription, but neither can Jim Beckett's. But because he's a doctor, I've decided that I am a doctor.
Okay.
I declared myself. So if you like John, you can be Dr. John if you want.
You could do that on YouTube.
Yeah, but that's what I did. That's exactly what I did. I am now Dr. Carlos. I hope you all acknowledge.
What do I want to be?
You got to decide. This is important stuff.
Yeah,
you got to think about
I'll have to think about it.
Yeah,
I want to be Dan.
You want to be Dan, the unofficial Dan? Thank you, Orlando. We do what we can.
Dan doesn't take anything seriously.
There are moments. Look, you have to see how worked up he gets about certain things. There's somewhere like he just rolls with it. I think we had a lot of fun with on the most recent episode because of the sheer foolishness of Yas. It sounds so dumb.
The thing about Dan that perplexes me sometimes is there will be something that I think he's going to go off on, like he's going to be fired up about, and he's not. Yeah. And then there's something that I don't think is that big of a deal, and he's very mad about it.
Yes.
So you just never know.
That's why I can't assume. I can never assume what's going to be the thing. I just find it all hilariously funny, John. And I've talked about this. I've talked about this a multitude of times. And maybe this is my problem. We can talk about this here for a second. Maybe my problem is this. I'm one of those few folks, and there are those of us out there that never actually left. I just kind of kept collecting. Now, when I was in school, I didn't have as much time. I didn't have as much money. But I'd still troll eBay on the weekend, grab a couple of $5 cards and have them sent to my house. And then when I went back to my parents' house, they would hand me the envelopes. So I never left. So I was in the game the whole time. But so what that means is that, I'll be 43 in July, but it means that I've been collecting since 1990. So that's 36 years. And then there are a lot of guys that are way older than I am. It's like, I've been collecting. No, you haven't. You collected when you were a kid, then you took 20 years off. That isn't the same thing. Yeah. This is 36 consecutive years. So I got to watch. So the evolution to me was slow. It wasn't this dramatic. I woke up one day and suddenly the hobby was like this. It was like, no, it was this gradual. I watched all the little changes all the way along. These companies came and went, and I watched all that. So it changes your perspective. After a while, it's like, well, why would I take this seriously? It's supposed to be silly. It's supposed to be fun. Like I've been here this whole time. Like it's going to keep changing no matter what you do.
That's one of the reasons I like your stuff, because I get your sarcasm and your humor, so I enjoy it. But how much fun was it to collect in 1990? I had a blast that year collecting.
It was a good start. I think the thing though is that when I started initially, I was still getting what Carlos Sr. gave me was one of those little collector kits. So that's what I was started. That's what I cut my teeth on. So you got the binder, you got the pages, but then you get like a mix of cards. So I have more 1990 tops than anyone has any reason to have. So because they're all there and included in that, some 1989 for some spice, 1989 tops for some spice there too. You can have your Greg Jeffries cards there.
I'd buy all those kits if I saw them because they were just fun. You get some posters. I have a few still. I had one that you got a big giant Mickey Mantle poster and Ted Williams poster in it. You got a price guide. You got some sheets. You get sometimes those little cards of the greats, and they tell you on the back. You'd get the greats cards, but then you'd also get the cards of like the 33 Nap Ladjeway and the T206 Hannes Wagner, and they would tell you on the back about that card and why it's worth money and what it's worth and that kind of thing. So they were educational too.
Yeah, I think it's fair. But so what I'll say to you is this: 1990 was good. A couple of those early 90s years were good. But for me, a couple of those late 90s ones were more interesting. I like complexity. So like some folks really like to keep it simple. They liked it when it was much simpler. Around 97, 98, and 99. Yes, we had more manufacturers and we had more stuff going on. But to me, that made it interesting. It made it dynamic. You were learning things on the fly because they were coming up with things that hadn't been done before.
Well, I agree with that. The late 90s and early 2000s, they had some great sets and they were fun to collect. There was all kind of stuff to chase.
Yeah. So we had a little bit of so I thought it was like a good mix, because if you still wanted to collect the 1990s stuff, 80s stuff, and even vintage and all that, go for it. Because by that point, so this is the way I would present it. And Brandon, this might be a good question for the chat too. If you could pin it down, what year or years for you collecting wise? And I'll explain what I'm saying here. I'm talking in totality. And also I'll explain my answer, and then maybe this will help you guys with your answer. John threw out like the early 90s, like a 1990, for example. And that was good. But that's where I started. But I would throw out like a 97 or 98. Reason why: some of my favorite sets they came out around that time. eBay was now in play. So you could find some of these things. It was a little bit easier than it was at the early part of the 90s. And you weren't all the way saturated on game used. Parallels existed, but we hadn't completely, shot every out of a cannon. We weren't like every 5 seconds, every set had 50 parallels. We weren't there yet. So we were in that little sweet spot where we knew something, we could access certain things, we had the internet, but we hadn't completely been overloaded by everything yet. So we were kind of in a little sweet spot there. So I feel like for me, that's a good time that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
I would probably kind of agree with John. If I was going back to a period of my personal collecting, it would be the beginning around 85, 86 when I started to the mid 90s. And the reason I say that is I'm a couple years older than you, Carlos. So in your period of the late 90s, from my experience, I was like in my sophomore, junior, senior year of high school. And a lot of people have shifted into my friends and stuff that I collected cards with had shifted over because the TCG stuff had came out. And so they started doing the Magic the Gathering and that kind of stuff. And so to stay in the crowd, and we were all learning to play the game and all of that, sit at the lunch table. Now, instead of just trading cards, we had something we could play a game with. We kind of all shifted into that pattern. So that late 90s stuff, like I still collected, but like you have to go back to Griffey, Frank Thomas. You had Shaq in 92. You had, that 96 rookie class in basketball with AI and Kobe and Marbury and Ray Allen, all those guys. So I would say like that 86 to 96 period was like prime for my age anyway.
Sure. There's no wrong. So to be clear, there's no wrong answer here. The reason why I gave you the reason for my answer is I'm taking everything into consideration, because in the early 90s, there was some interesting, there was interesting stuff in the earlier portion of it, but access was harder. It needed to be a card shop or a card show. By the time you get into that late 90s period, eBay was starting to, so it made certain things available that just were not available. And we hadn't gone too far down the line where all of a sudden now there were just so many options that it changed the game entirely. So at that point, I felt like we were in a sweet spot. We're still figuring that out. Collectively, we were still figuring it out, but at least we had some resources. We could try to connect with different people and try to share notes and try to figure some of the stuff out on the fly.
I actually... Oh, go ahead, John.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to reiterate on like my take on it too, I moved out of state in 99 and then I became a father in 2000. So I did have a period there, like, from probably like 96, 97 ish to probably 03, 05. Well, it would have been 02 actually, because I was buying 02 finest trying to get the redemptions for the 03 rookie class in basketball. Mm-hmm. But there was a couple of years there where I was transitioning because I had moved halfway across the country, and then, obviously becoming a father kind of at 20 years old kind of threw a wrench into things. You had to learn what to do there. So, but yeah. So
Go ahead, John.
I was just going to add about eBay. I mean, that changed the game. You could find all kind of stuff because, like you said, you'd have to go to a flea market or a card show or a card shop. Part of 1990 that made it so special for me is I had, I was older. I'm a lot older than you, so I was older. I could drive. I had, friends around my age they collected, and I had a little neighbor who was my godchild, and I would take him to shows, and we had a card shop in my town, and we would hang out there, and card collectors just blew up at that time, as you know. So I would run into all kind of people at that card shop. I didn't even know collected cards like that. I was surprised to even see them, but people would come in and out of there, and we'd sit around and talk about players and talk about cards, and it was just a real wholesome kind of time and a fun time to be in the hobby for me.
I think it's fair. I think that's why I said there is no wrong answer on this one. You can have different reasons for it. I think the forums were one reason I liked some of that time. Usenet was getting a little bit of a use as well. But you could compare notes because you could share things with collectors at that point. Now we could share information with collectors on the other side of the country or another country or in Australia or wherever. Basically, if they had access to the internet, you could connect and find out, wait, you got that there? Oh, tell me about it and give me a little information. You learn a lot really quickly just by sharing that information, going back and forth, because it hadn't been oversaturated. So when people share something, a lot of times it was brand new. Now sometimes I'll see something like, oh, I discovered this. It's like, oh yes, it's old hat, but it's been around so long now. But it's good that you're discovering it. That's not a bad thing. I'm happy for you. But it's like, it's tough for me to get excited because a lot of this, I've seen it. I was there when that came out, or I saw it since, and there it is. It's cool.
I think another thing too that differed back then, and maybe you guys' opinions are different on it, but I felt like more people collected like the variety of sports. It wasn't uncommon for someone to do baseball, football, basketball, and even mix in a little bit of hockey here and there. Whereas today, a lot of people are, main one sport or really niched into particular things too. And I think it was more assorted back then, maybe because of price point and affordability and accessibility. But I think today with the business side, the money side, people kind of try to niche down, or they look at like the basketball and football stuff being, more valuable or whatever. And it's kind of gotten away from this mixture and assortment of the sports, because we had a lot of exciting players in the 90s that, we got to follow. So.
Yeah. I've always collected, not always, like not when I was a little kid. Well, I would buy packs of other sports, but I didn't actively collect those as much as baseball. But when I got a little bit older, I collected everything, football, baseball, hockey. Carlos, I have an enormous hockey collection. I just don't show it a lot. I can't pronounce everybody's names, and I don't know the history the way I do baseball. And with I'll show them a lot of times, but with my channel, I try to stay in my wheelhouse where I can actually talk intelligently about certain sets and cards and players and possibly teach people things. It's like with the modern cards, I don't know all that much about them. I'll show them, but I can't elaborate on them or anything. And that's why I mostly show vintage and cards that maybe people haven't seen before.
Well, that's why I don't do too much vintage stuff. I've literally had decades worth of. I've got sets. I've got a couple of different things. I've got some pre-war and whatever. But it's like I collected it for me, and this is basically.
Yeah.
I want to ask. So I want to come back. I want to quickly get into it, but there was a question for you. I didn't want to ignore it. Mike did ask, so this one's real quick for you. Top three Pirates, top three Steelers.
Oh boy, well, my favorite football player of all time is Lynn Swann. Man, I loved so many Steelers though. Oh my God, it's huge Terry Bradshaw fan. Franco, Jack Lambert, Hammer, Joe Green, L.C. Greenwood, Dwight White, John Stallworth. I could go on and on. I don't know if I have just three Steelers. Pirates, Clemente, Willie Stargell, Manny Sanguillen.
Go ahead, say it. Andy Van Slyke, say it. I know you want to.
I loved Andy Van Slyke.
I pulled a lot of Andy Van Slyke cards.
Bobby
I pulled a lot of Andy Van Slyke cards. A
I got
lot.
to throw him a ball at spring training one time. I was a nervous wreck because it was a pretty long throw, and I hadn't thrown a ball in a very long time. So fortunately, I hit him in the chest. But I was thinking that I was gonna be one of those guys throwing the first pitch. It goes straight into the ground.
So, are you a Phil Robertson fan, John?
The duck hunter
Yeah.
guy. Am I a fan of his? I can't say that I've watched him a lot, but I do know that he was a better quarterback in college than Terry Bradshaw.
That's why I bring it up, because could you imagine the Steelers' history? Like, how could have things changed if that man didn't decide he wanted to go hunting one day and leave football to allow Bradshaw the open door to become who he became? Like, Bradshaw may have never been a Hall of Fame quarterback. Things could have been completely different.
I'll tell you, he struggled early on in his career, but watching him on 3rd and 10 or whatever, you just had no doubt he was going to pick it up. You didn't even worry about it. When they came out with the Mel Blount rule and they opened up Swan and Stallworth, it was a beautiful sight. They basically came up with that to stop the steel curtain and open up the passing game, and it kind of backfired. We won 2 Super Bowls after that because then Lynn Swan and John Stallworth became a much bigger factor in the games.
Mm-hmm. I think it's fair. Let me quickly touch on a couple of these. I'll look at a couple comments, and then I want to come back to one thing we were just talking about. Carlisle here said, "Good evening. Have any of you pulled the Ripken era card from 89 Fleer Pack or something comparable?" I tried. I opened a lot of 89 Fleer packs, even though it was just after my time. I opened rack packs. I opened boxes. The effort was there.
I have never owned that card.
I have to share this. So a few months ago, I was just having some fun, and with card prices, I try to find other things to buy other than the big cards now. And I bought a few packs of 89 Fleer, and I bought 3 packs. One pack, I got one of the Randy Johnson Marlboro variations.
Yeah. I've actually got one where in the PSA slab they designated which one it was.
And I pulled this card. I never had it.
Perfect. Which one of the versions?
I kept it with the wrapper.
That's the regular.
So yeah, it's with the full thing. Yes, there you go.
Yeah. I never had that. Never pulled it growing up.
I think that qualifies.
I never really wanted it, to be honest, because I was like, do I really want a card that says fuck? I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I just think it's one of those fun curiosities. It's one of those fun curiosities, though. It's one of and the fact there are a couple of versions of it. Some people have actually put together collections of them. So it's that's like an early parallel for you.
There's a lot of versions of it.
I believe the whiteout's the most rare, right?
I think so. One. Yeah, because I remember there's like a black scribble. There's like a black scribble. There's a box. There's a couple different variants.
The white box, I believe, is the rarest. I've searched for that thing forever. I never see one come up for sale.
Yeah. So I think it's one of those ones. Okay. Listen, Eric gets the giggles every time someone references this one. That's a different one. Every single time. He gets a little excited.
Card.
I do own that one.
Yeah, I know you own that one. And he gets the giggle every time you bring it up. Don't threaten Eric with a good time. See, his smile just got wider in the corner there. I don't know if you guys realize his smile got wider as soon as that got referenced. But what I was going to say is that when it came, so here, obviously it's skewed super heavy hockey. That's why I talked a minute ago. A couple of minutes ago, you were talking about how you stay kind of in your lane. I just, my thought process was, and it plays into my YouTube. I'm not necessarily worried about educating people. I will have some fun because in the course of these things, in the course of these discussions, that's when I'll bring in, here's a couple of experiences that I've had where maybe I can add something to the conversation or if whatever, because I have them. But it's one of those things where I don't want to prescribe to you how to collect. Like, do whatever you want. Like, it doesn't make any, as long as you're not telling me what to do with my collection, unless you're paying for it, I'm not interested in your opinion in what I'm doing. And I'm not going to tell you what to do. And you're not giving me power over your wallet in terms of hobbying. So then I have no say in what you're doing. And as long as we understand each other on that, I think we're cool. I don't really have any reason not to be, but there are people who like almost insist on, they're like trying to tell you, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. It's like, why not? I want to do that. What business
Carlos,
is yours?
I know, man. I had to block people because I try to respond nicely. I'm like, well, I'm going to do it this way. You do it your way, and we're both having fun. And they just keep coming at you. and telling you you're doing things wrong and why would you do that and why would you buy that card in that grade. And it's like, why do you care what I do? I don't get it.
I always open it up to them. I offer, like, if you're willing to subsidize, if you will pay for my collecting, then I will give you authority over what decisions are made. If you're paying for it, then that's fine. But if you're not going to pay for it, then I'm not interested in what you have to say on that.
And there are certain cards I want, and it's not even about the dollar amount. It's not even about that. Like that's the particular one that my eye is drawn to. It's the one I like. Sometimes I fall in love with a card that's a little off center, and I buy it. It's not just because of the price. It's because that's the one that I like.
Mm-hmm.
And if it happens to be in a 7 instead of a 10, then so be it. You know what I mean?
I mean, I offered $10,000 for a card that was off-centered one time, so I can't disagree with you there. Unfortunately, my offer was turned down, and the owner of it did very well. He could have done even better. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, it was a pretty nice card, off-centered.
Yeah,
I'll see these cards and I'll think to myself as I'm buying them, I'm the only one that's going to pay this price for this card, But I just love the card, and I want it the way it looks. I can't explain it. I guess that's how we pick our women, right?
See, that's a different conversation entirely. Like, all of a sudden, Ham is getting excited down there. You don't want to set off a Florida man. Just leave them be. Hide your wives. Hide everything.
I always joke around because I don't know if you ever heard me joke around about this, but cards have become like diamonds now, and everybody has to point out every little tiny flaw and why it got this grade, and they drone on and tell you how shitty their cards are. And I'm always like, imagine if you described your girlfriend or your wife like this. Well, she's got a little pudge in the front. She's got some cellulite, but I love her. You know what I mean? That's how we describe our cards now.
I keep trying to get Eric to do that because my first instinct would be like, you're right. Your cards are trash. I agree. Could not agree with you more, honestly. Finally, you acknowledge it. It's about time. I appreciate that you finally did it. See, Ham knows. But the thing is that I was going to say with what you were talking about there is that a lot of times folks will start, to your point, they will start talking down their. I don't care if they want to talk down their cards. They go ahead. But my thought process always was like, I'm collecting these things because I want to. That's the purpose of it. Sometimes I have, and this is something I'll open up to the chat as well. I've already documented. I have a couple of collections that I do literally just because it amuses me. That's the only reason I'm doing it, because it's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. I have probably the greatest Josh Rosen collection this side of this world from 2018. I've got a box full of stuff that if it was Josh Allen or if it was Lamar, I could literally buy a boat. I could buy a fleet of boats. And instead, it's probably worth about the price of a stale donut is what it's worth. And I'll buy these things. And it's like, why would you? Because it's funny to me. It's hilarious to me that I can literally, this card would have been thousands, tens of thousands, $100,000 if the quarterback was even decent. And yet, it's Josh Rosen. So you know what? That's what we're going to do. Yeah, that's the cut card.
I collect lots of things many people wouldn't want.
Yeah, but that's an entire collection that I specifically did because I just found it funny. And then I will have people go like, why would you collect that? Exactly. That reaction is exactly why I'm doing it.
Do you have a Johnny football collection?
I have one card of his because they had a dual jersey autograph with Favre. So he's actually got a card that's with Favre. So I'm like, you know what? I don't necessarily want to get a bunch of his cards, but this is a perfect opportunity to get one that has both guys on it.
Well, I've heard of people collecting like quarterback busts. That's a fun way to collect. Cheap too.
But that's where the Rosen fell into. It was perfect because 2018, part of the reason for the 2018 also is that 2018 was actually when I started doing sports card videos on this channel. My first video was a 2018 unparalleled football box. So the first thing I did was a couple of box breaks, and they were all 2018 football because at the time the box price was, I thought, okay. I thought it was fair. So my first videos were me opening up boxes of 2018 football. So I was pulling the Sam Darnolds, the Josh Allens, the Josh Rosen. So I was trying to get those. And I pulled at least something from all the guys, but nothing too crazy. But Rosen was one of those guys. He was one of the top 5 quarterback choices that year.
Yeah. Look at speaking of 2018, I've shared some of my Victor Robles collection. You know, I had a great experience meeting him, but imagine if I had put that money into Juan Soto in 2018 and went the other direction, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, shit happens.
I was buying up Soto and Acuna and Otani and Devers.
I have a
That was a
few
pretty
nice
big
Sotos,
draft
but
class. Pretty good,
my
or
wife
not draft class, but
always
rookie class.
Reminds me, and Carlos also likes to remind me about how big of a cheap ass I am.
You are.
And
You're absurdly cheap.
I still remember distinctly March of 2018. You could buy a Juan Soto First Bowman auto for $50. Color wasn't that much more, you know. And my wife tells me you should buy some, and I'm like, but the guy, you know, he's been hurt a couple times. I don't know if he's gonna pan out. I think I'll just wait, and then you know the rest is history. And
I think as humans, we all overthink everything.
yeah,
right.
Yeah, I mean, and I have a wife that just tells me buy it, and then you know I'm like, no. You know, there was a comment earlier about getting mail in, like how do you solve getting mail in and your wife not yelling? Mine just tells me to buy it, you know.
Yeah, my wife's on conference calls a lot, so I like to go to the mailbox when she's wrapped up on a call. And she works out of town like one night a week, 2 days. So it's nice when my mail comes on those days.
Yeah.
She doesn't mind though. She knows I buy, you know, she knows I buy.
Oh, as long as you have an understanding, it's fine.
As long as the bills are paid and you're not putting us in any issues, do what you want.
The problem is when you're a collector and you buy a lot of cards, then you open that door, you know, you got to let her buy whatever the hell she wants to.
Yeah.
Good evening, Josh. Good evening, Carlos. Bobbles, Mr. President. Weird Eric is absent. Listen, we're gonna get to the bottom of it. By Friday, we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out what Eric is, and I promise
you better have some nifty, shiny awards.
You better have something, or else he's gonna get it. Like it's gonna be incredible. Dog gets his $3 cards in the mail. That's right. Thinks all your cards are $3.
You guys were talking about the 2018 NFL cards.
Yep.
I mean, don't you think the 2017 Prism is one of the greatest sets ever put together for football?
Do you remember when that stuff used to just sit stale on the shelf?
Yep. But man, that is just loaded. That is just loaded with rookies.
So I had the opposite experience with 2017 to what Brandon was talking about, because I don't mind taking a flyer on some stuff. Again, it's all relative. How much is always important in the conversation. If it's relatively cheap, even going back to when Mahomes was going to start taking off, even in that season when he did finally become the starter and it was starting to go in the direction of that, you could still buy. And I bought on ComC 3 of the Donruss rookies for Mahomes. And they were like $10-15 each. And at that time, you could still get them graded by PSA and get them back relatively quickly. I got back 3 10s. Nice. And the thing is, so now I could have bought some other different one, but literally they were like, I had like $30 into the 3 cards, give or take. So it wasn't much. And then the grading wasn't really that crazy either. So I ended up selling them and I sold them all profitably. But then as time just kept going on, they kept getting higher and higher. And then they got past $1,000 each. And I'm sitting there like, I kind of wish I'd held to one. I sold them all profitably. Like I made plenty of money on it comparatively to what I actually paid, but it would have been more if it had been one of the other.
This is funny. I don't follow college football, so I didn't know Mahomes from anybody, and I was buying some packs that year, and it was like every time I opened a pack, it was this Mahomes guy for Kansas City, and I'm like, he's going to be a bust. He's going to be a bust because over the years, I mean, I got so many of these rookie quarterback busts, and so then when I heard he was looking good, and then they started him, and I go back. I'm like, I know I pulled that guy, so I had to go back and dig for my because I pulled a patch and a few other cards, and some other products too. I kept pulling them for some reason, and then of course my man TJ Watt's in that set, so I have a few discos. I have his autograph card and a few another variation. That's just those cards to me are just beautiful. Like the James Harrison, I have multiple refractors. That card just so cool to me. But that's a fun set to collect. There are just so many rookies in there. You got Cooper Kupp and McCaffrey and many others.
Yeah. Well, the reason I like to share the story is that even as the hype today, what kind of differentiates, like I mentioned in the video where I responded to you, John, was that I make micro adjustments as the waves keep moving. You kind of have to adjust as you go. But even in 2017, 2018, there was still a time delay. The reason I gave that story about the Mahomes is that Mahomes was in the midst of what was about to be a 50 touchdown year. So like the hype was building, but it was slow. It was incremental. It was a $10 or $15 card, but it had been like a $5 card. But the point is, even at 10 or 15, it's not much of a flyer. If I'm only buying like 3 or 4 of them, it's not that big. It's not a big cash investment on my side.
Right.
I'm getting it sent in and whatever. It's like, I'm not putting a lot on the line here. It's the point that I'm trying to get at. And they ended up doing very well, all things considered.
Yeah, I tell people that I am a defensive prospector because I don't sell cards. So I buy these rookies, like I was buying Ohtani and I was buying up Aaron Judge and I was buying up Soto and I was buying up other players that didn't pan out. But I was buying them all when they're cheap. So if you get some that do pan out, I say I'm a defensive prospector because I don't want to have to pay thousands later. So I'll get them when they're $10, $15. Yeah. And if some of them are complete busts, I have some Wander Francos laying around. That didn't work out. But my Ohtani certainly worked out because I wouldn't be paying the prices I'd have to pay to have them now. You know what I mean?
So this topic is funny because I actually realized the other day, and on the topic of Ohtani and Carlos mentioning, the Mahomes thing. Mm-hmm. I knew I had one of these cards. And when I went back to my very first SGC reveal on my channel, the very first card I ever showed that I graded with SGC happened to be that one, which is the complete set Topps Chrome rookie variation.
Nice.
I went and looked that thing up now, and they're going for about $5,000.
His stuff is just blown up.
Back then, I think it was 100, 125-ish somewhere, and I was like, holy smokes. So, yeah. But that's the first card I ever showed in an SGC reveal.
Wow. So. In 2019, his second year, I bought a blaster of Heritage and I pulled his red ink auto. I was so excited, but it wasn't, I'm like, it's second year card. It wasn't worth anything. Somebody reached out and said that card's worth like $20,000. I'm like, no way. I looked it up. It was selling for $17,000 to $20,000 like a couple months ago. These cards have just gotten insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question, and then I'm going to come back real quick, but I want to ask you a question. And this is something I've talked about with a couple of folks offline. And we can talk about these stories. The reason I shared my story is because I said, because at that time things moved a little bit slower. The problem with today is that now they build the hype in immediately. So you got no margin for error. The whole point of those things, the whole point of the Mahomes thing is that in that first year when he became a starter, you still had time. You had a window where it was still very inexpensive. Yeah. So you could take a flyer. So he's a starter now. Cool. I'll grab a handful and kind of set him aside, whatever, not a big deal. But today it's like, no, as soon as the guy shows up, it's like $5,000. It's like, well, then you've got no margin. You basically have to cross your fingers and hope he's all-time great, or you're basically down 60% because there's nowhere else to go but down as a result.
I find I agree with you 100% with football, basketball. Mm-hmm. When it comes to baseball, I feel like there's still that window.
I think no, he probably went to go get something to drink.
Look at Mason Miller. Go look at his cards; they're so affordable.
So do you think that the Bowman? I don't know if you did the Bowman prospecting much, but do you think the first Bowmans have changed though? Because I feel like the first Bowmans, even on an upper tier prospect, they used to still not be like extravagant right out the gate. And now it's like anybody top 25 is already like way high. Like I was talking about Soto, you could buy his first Bowman auto in 2018, 2 years after the 16 Bowman released. He was a talked about player and everything. You could buy his auto for $50. And then it usually they gradually would increase once they made their debut. And if they went off, now it's like an instant, like what Carlos was saying, the value is instantly injected. And then you have to pray that it doesn't go down instead of the opposite, where you could buy with the hope that they went up. I think we're like a little bit backwards right now on a lot of it.
I think, and I think it's always been this way, from my recollection, is that more players go backwards than forwards.
Yeah,
because
that makes sense.
Very few of them ever meet the hype, right?
Yeah, but I think though you touched on it, and the beauty of the wireless is I can still hear you guys, and he is correct. I was grabbing a beverage, but the reason why, see, Brandon knows the score. He knows how this game is played. If I disappear randomly, usually it's to get a beverage. But the thing is that with baseball, you can cheat a little bit because of the minor league system. There's usually like a path the prospects take. The other sports, the issue is that they try to get them right there right away, and it kind of wrecks the whole thing. That's why I say like people got so eager, they so wanted to be at the front of the line that then they collectively shoved money into it, and that pushed the price up. And it's like, well, guys, the whole reason the prospect thing worked is that we had a little bit of that window where the price point was moderate, and people could take that flyer. It actually allowed people to accumulate a couple of cards, and then it gave you room to go up. It actually gave you way more room to go up, because then if they turned out they were great, they could. The Mahomes in relative in that, from the beginning of that season to the end of that season, you'd had some movement. But by the time he starts winning Super Bowls and all that stuff's happening, if you had been there at that level, you're here at this level by that time you get to that next thing. But today you'd be starting here already, here. And now, like, okay, they won the Super Bowl. Like, it's so small. The difference is like you were already so high to begin with.
Yeah, you're right.
It
wasn't like the good old days where you would pay $10 or $15 for an Andre Ware or Jeff George.
What is you got those bats behind you and the helmets and stuff, and this is something that I've always like found interesting, and I know that there's various reasons and theories behind it or whatever. But what's your opinion on the balance or imbalance of card price to memorabilia price? Like a card with a little piece of material that you don't know if it was actually game used or off of a rack at a store, and then a signature that we have to assume was actually signed by the player, going for excessively more than you could get a significant moment game used full memorabilia piece. Like, that's never made full sense to me, because you have the actual item, the full piece, versus just a little fraction of it.
Yeah, I find that there are memorabilia collectors and card collectors, and then there's a much smaller group of people that do a lot of both. And memorabilia is very hard to store and display if you want a lot of it. Unlike cards. I'm mainly a card guy. I had gotten into some memorabilia. The bats I collect, they're from the Lumber Company, the old Pittsburgh Pirates. Guys like Bill Madlock, Al Oliver are behind me. Dave Parker. Here's a Willie Stargell. This is a game used bat by Johnny Ray. Looks like the one in his cards, his early cards. I don't do a lot of that. But the thing is memorabilia is infinite, where cards aren't necessarily. You have that 1 of 10 patch auto. It's 1 of 10, but I mean, every single game they play, they have memorabilia. Now, if it's a big super event, yeah. If it's a Babe Ruth World Series called shut bat or jersey, that's a different story. But for the most part, this memorabilia, every single game, there's new memorabilia. So it's, for me, less exciting.
But that also brings back to the question, because just because the card has a stamp out of 10 on it, we know that there was way more than 10 pieces of material that could be cut from it. And as you said, if there's a finite, amount of memorabilia, well, then there could be even that many more of the cards made because of the amount of pieces that can come from it. So that's why it's always just intrigued me. And I get the argument of space limitation. I feel that I guess because people can own more of the cards and there might be more people interested in them because of that, it could help drive. But it still feels like when we're talking value, like it's just
Yeah.
always interested me because like we've seen some Ruth items. There's not a finite amount of Ruth game use stuff sell for less than a Ruth card. And it's like that just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Like,
Yeah, you're yeah.
I can throw out a theory. I can throw something out that you guys maybe can chew on. This will be something maybe worthwhile. One of the tricks, and this is a conversation I've kind of had with Bobby offline because he's a big memorabilia. He likes his trinkets. He's a big fan of those. But the thing is, I tell him that sometimes it's the packaging. Like a lot of times for the people, like a bat, obviously you can display a bat. There are things you can do with that. And if it has some significance to you, there's still value to it. So I'll use bat as an example. But then the bat card, depending on what it is, you can combine a couple of elements to it. If it's got a good aesthetic to it, it's a nice looking package to it. In addition to being easier to house, a lot of people are going to go like, okay, but it's cool that I have this bat, but then now I have to figure out how to display it. Whereas the card is a little bit more flexible in that regard. There is a certain element to it. It's the same way that you can take an autographed jersey, because if you go take an autographed jersey, you have it professionally framed and it looks really good. For some people, the whole is now worth more than the sum of its parts. The jersey is the jersey. It's cool. But now with this display, you make it look nice. Suddenly it's like, oh, it draws the eye and like, oh, that's a really cool display piece. It's almost worth more than it was just as a jersey 5 seconds ago and a couple of frame pieces.
Yeah, and it depends on the pieces too. I mean, if you have like a Jackie Robinson uniform signed from his rookie season, or there's a guy I saw, Jeff Wilson actually toured his facility, and
we only acknowledge Geoff. We only know Geoff.
Yeah, well, he has these trunks, and he knew all these famous people, and he has like Muhammad Ali signed trunks.
Oh, I remember that video. I know what you're
Jackie
talking about.
Robinson. Now that's on a different plane. That's a different level.
Yeah.
And the other thing that, to your point on the memorabilia, how about Type 1 photos? I mean, you have these Type 1 photos, Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, and these guys. They're the only ones in existence, and they sell for far less than his cards.
Right. Yeah, that's like I get, the card industry is obviously much bigger than the other stuff, but it's always just blown my mind when you see, I remember, I think we discussed it on one of the podcasts, like there was a pair of Kobe shoes or something like that, and they sold for a minuscule amount versus like what one of his cards had done recently or something. And it's just like, I don't know. I have some memorabilia pieces. I've started getting into like the screen use prop thing and stuff from, I bought the Walking Dead stuff and all that. And it was literally like a different feeling opening that stuff, knowing that it was like a part of it and actually used and all of that. And then, versus just obtaining that card. Because we all know when we get the cards, we're off to the next one, right?
Yeah.
And with that memorabilia stuff, it's not always looking for the next one. It's like what the opportunity to obtain it is, or what the meaning behind it or the use or the moment or whatever. So it's just, I guess it's two different worlds, but it's interesting the dynamic and values that are placed amongst a card versus some of the actual items that, that were used for the moments. So.
Yeah, this hobby, I mean, it's a valid point. Why do they sell for less? But this hobby's always been that way for me. Like a lot of the things that I like the most are not the things that end up being the most popular or selling for the most. I know my whole life I always was drawn to the rookie cards that weren't the big one that took off. Everybody always had that one that would take off or whatever. I always seemed to like the other ones. I just never know what's going to take off. I mean, I don't know why people have these certain preferences. I'm not a huge Chrome card fan. I think paper looks better. But Chrome's the one that, those are the ones that took off. I remember being surprised by that in like the early 2000s when that all started happening, or maybe before that even.
Yeah, well, I try not to predict. I try not to predict what the flow of the crowd is because they're going to do their own thing.
Yeah.
I think the memorabilia piece, it's weird because it does offer an opportunity. The good news for that is if you are into the memorabilia, then it might give you a chance to get into some memorabilia you might like for a very reasonable price. Because some of the stuff, because for some of the memorabilia stuff, the audience for it is so niche, it's so small. Because I always joke about it is that I don't keep a lot of, I've never really got into getting a lot of game use stuff. I have one game use bat, one. And if I gave somebody 100,000 opportunities to try, they would never guess what it was. I can even tell them it's a Blue Jays bat. It's a Blue Jays game use bat. But they would spend the rest of their life guessing and guessing incorrectly because it just won't work. Because there's only one reason I even have it.
Tony Fernandez.
Way too obvious. Sorry. Not even close. So I'll explain what it is because I could give you the rest of time and you still wouldn't get it. It's a game used back of Rick Bassetti. So if anybody is familiar, if anybody remember, Rick Bassetti played for the Blue Jays for a couple of seasons. Rick Bassetti really wasn't a notable player. I'll tell you why I got the bat though. I got the bat because I saw it at the Toronto Expo that they had the Rick Bassetti bat and I was like, I must have it. And the reason for it is because when I was playing Little League, because I played baseball for 6 years, that was my game. I never played hockey. I played street hockey, but that's not the same thing. I played baseball, organized baseball. I got all the books to kind of go through them so that I could get some tips and things that I could do. Well, Rick Bassetti actually had a book. It was a blue book, and it was Rick Bassetti plays baseball or teaches baseball or whatever it is. And as soon as I saw this bat, I'm like, this is hilarious. One of the books that I had when I was a kid was Rick Bassetti teaches baseball of all people. Yeah. I was like, I must have this bat, and I have it. But I don't put it in a fancy display or anything. Actually, when I'm bored, I'm around my office, I'll grab my Rick Bassetti bat and I'll just swing it around a little bit. But I had to buy it because it had a specific thing for me. No one else is going to give a crap about that stupid bat. As far as the rest of the world's concerned, it's worth $5. No one cares.
That's like me collecting Steve Blass because I went to his baseball camp and hung out with him, and he taught me baseball. So I have an affinity to him, and I collect his stuff. I might be the only one left.
But I think these are the moments that are more important in the collector aspect because these are pieces that although the value is not there, it's not the popular player. It's the moments, the memories, the connection to it, because it's I don't collect the most popular baseball players. My Nationals PC guys are literally outfielders that I enjoyed, but I also had interactions with. Y'all were talking about the game used bats. That's a Michael Taylor game used bat in that case on the wall right there that he personally gave me on my birthday when I went to a game up in Harrisburg. I actually love, even though I know if I had put money into Soto instead of Robles, my collection would be more valuable. Going to that game in Woodbridge, the Potomac Nationals, now they're the Fredericksburg Nationals, but going to that game, sitting in the cold weather with my 2 kids and my wife, and then getting to go meet Robles afterwards, get his game used jersey, and take that picture with him and my kids, that's a moment, that can't be taken away. And so that's what began my collection of him. And, the cards on eBay or the comps or whatever, they're not the most expensive. Soto would have been the more financial responsible decision, but there was more to it than money there. It was, there was a memory that started that collection. So
I pulled a 1-of-1 Michael Taylor out of a big league.
I was going to say, please do not tell me there is a card that I have looked for.
Wait, was it big? I think it was big league.
For what, 8 years now, I think? 9 years?
It'd have to be something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's the 2014 Bowman Chrome Superfractor Auto. I have the non-auto. I have almost all of the reds that exist. They're out of 5. I have almost all of the non-auto and autos. I've literally bought pretty much everything I can that I've ever found of his, but I cannot find that Superfractor. My wife's bought me boxes to try to pull it.
Don't you know you're supposed to do a bounty? Don't you know you're supposed to do a bounty? That the bounty is how you do it.
Well, the problem is that product has actually gotten expensive because I believe Mookie is in it. I think
that sounds right. 2014.
Yeah, I think Mookie's in the product, and then of course, Chris Bryant was in it, and he drove the price. He's not so much now, but there was.
Man, how hot was he his rookie year? I was buying up all his cards.
I don't think Judge is in that one. I think he's in the draft, Bowman draft, maybe. I
Well,
don't remember exactly.
Judge's regular tops was 17, so the Bowman I would think would be 16.
No, he's 2014. It doesn't have the first on it. Taylor's doesn't either, but it's 2014 or 20. It might even be 2013. But no, I've not found that. That's my hunt card. Like that's the card that if it ever pops up, I'm going to wind up having to overpay for because I've like hunted for that thing for years. And
I liked him when he was with the Nationals, and then he came to the Pirates. I was excited he came over.
he didn't turn out to be the player people thought he would, but
No.
as a person, like he was raised by, his dad was in the service and stuff, and just him and his wife both like great people. So
yeah, I liked him. We got him for 1 year.
yeah, Kansas City had him, Minnesota had him, White Sox had him. So I actually, it was kind of awesome. His final game was in DC. When he was on the White Sox. It was in DC. I actually got to go to the game and got to meet up with him after the game. And I actually have one of his Nationals jerseys from his debut year when he wore number 18. A lot of his rookie cards, he has 18. And I have one of the number 18 jerseys, and I was able to get him to sign it that day. So
I like that kind of stuff when they have a different number. There was a set, was it Topps Tribute, I think it was Topps Tribute, where they did bat pieces and they did their original number that they wore rather than the number they became known for.
Yeah. He wore that jersey.
I have a Ralph Kiner card, and that's how I know about that.
I think it makes sense. I like Keith's comment here. Rick Bassetti achieved his goal of urinating in every major league ballpark baseball reference. And I hope that's true. And that only makes me appreciate Rick Bassetti more. That's a noble goal. See, these are the kinds of things we look to, John. I like to kind of poke fun at the entire YouTube and sports card thing, because I do think I agree with you that people take it too seriously. It's inherently, but I kind of would present this a different way. It's like some folks don't understand that it's inherently ridiculous that adults are collecting pieces of cardboard and paying good money for pieces of cardboard. And as someone who has done it for the majority of my lifetime, I'm the one who's going to tell you that. I will happily explain to you. Do you understand that if we did this correctly, then none of these adults would be here. All the cards would be $5. The kids could enjoy them and do whatever, and the world would move on. But guess what? You're all too old, myself included, and we're buying these pieces of cardboard, and we ruined it. And you just kind of have to take some responsibility for it.
Yeah, pretty much. I've often struggled with that, collecting pictures of other people.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, there's the E.
But it's one of those things that I almost have to consistently remind people. It's like, you understand you are part of the problem. Even if you don't think you are, you're here. And if you are putting any money in the ecosystem, you're contributing in some way, because you're part of the reason that this is being allowed to happen.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that go on. Number one, when you have a hobby like this and maybe you can't talk to your spouse or your friends, you want to go and talk to people about it. You want to watch content on it. Imagine like when you were growing up, if there was a TV show about baseball cards or hockey card or whatever, sports cards, how awesome that would have been. And YouTube allows us to watch content anytime we want on our hobby. Then the other thing is, there are a lot of things that go on in the hobby today that trigger people, that are frustrating to people, that makes their hobby maybe less enjoyable. And I think we're all drawn, we do this with the news, right? If you're of one certain political party, you watch a certain channel. If you're of a different political party, you watch a different channel. You watch the channel that's going to bitch about the shit you want to hear, you want to hear bitched about. And there's a lot of that goes on too, right?
Yeah, and that's basically what happens. Yeah, people are looking for creators that are agreeing with them. They're looking for ones that are like, you're mirroring what I believe. You're saying what I feel is the case. You're presenting it. That's why I enjoyed the opportunity to do the response to your response, because I go, look, I'm going to speak very calmly. We're going to talk through this because I played your literally basically your entire video. We went back and forth. Carlisle, I think it was actually had the best comment. He goes, "Yeah, John was very respectful while you were making points. Yeah, I appreciated that he let me finish my point, and then he continued what he was saying.
I saw
that
comment actually.
Very respectful dialogue.
I got a chuckle. I laughed.
It was a very respectful dialogue, and that's how it should be done, John. We're trying to set the standard.
I stand behind everything I say, but it's just it's just observations, whatever. Everybody can think their own thing, but it's I think we are drawn to that. Like if you're pissed off at PSA that day, then you're on YouTube, and if somebody else is complaining about PSA, you're gonna watch it, right? Because misery loves company. It's like when you got a D in school and you wanted to hang out with the other kids that got bad grades. You didn't want to hang out with the kids that got A's. Made you feel bad about yourself.
Well, my favorite comment is always the one where it says like, why are you guys still talking about this? It's like you literally commented on it. The views on it were tremendous. The engagement on it was tremendous, and you're commenting on it right now. You were literally commenting on it as we speak. I'm reading your comment. It's right here.
Yeah. I made in that whole video, I made one tiny comment about PSA upcharges, just as an example of something that I think works against the collector. Mm-hmm. And I saw somebody had put, more grading talk. It's always grading talk. And he said something along the lines of, I don't know what's worse, me, you talking about grading or me watching because I'm so bored I have nothing better to do. I thought that was a funny comment.
Oh wait, was that on your video?
That was on yours.
Oh yeah, that was on mine. Yeah. Well, but my response was, what I'm hearing is more grading talk. What I'm hearing right now is more grading talk. Don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah. But I laugh because you could say something like for 2 seconds, and if that's what what triggers certain people, that's all they hear. They don't hear the rest of the video. They're just like, more grading talk. He said the word PSA.
That's the beauty of the long form video. I'm going to sit there like there is no way that you could go into what literally was a 50-minute video. Like it was effectively a podcast with the whole back and forth and everything included. I covered a whole range of topics. There was a lot, and I gave example and I gave some history, and there was a little bit of everything. That's why I like when I get the opportunity to expand, because like, no, I can talk to you about 36 years of experience in this from all those decades as a direct participant, just me being involved. And I go, look, I'll share. You guys may not remember, but people were bitching and moaning about this 25 years ago in the exact same way. And you haven't come up with any arguments I haven't already heard, even back then.
I have a magazine, Carlos, from 1974. It's a sports magazine, and on the cover are a bunch of baseball cards, and it's talking about how baseball cards have value now. And it's from 1974.
Yeah. So I remember I did one video. I think it might have been in response to Moynihan, because sometimes Moynihan was my muse for many years. Some of the best ideas came in. He would say something and I'd be like, all right, now I'm gonna have some fun. He's one of my content all-stars because of that. I appreciate it because he would say something and I'd argue with him a little bit. But I think what I was saying, the point that I made was that I said there's nothing. I always have to preface it the same way I said, John. I go, there's nothing wrong with it. You feel however you want to feel. That's your business. I can't tell you how to feel. That's your business. But whenever somebody talks about the money thing, it's like, well, guys, Kit Young and some of those dealers started in the 70s. So all we got to reverse engineer this thing. Full-time dealers were for-profit businesses. They're businesses. They're not collectors who happen to moonlight. No, these are full-time dealers, like guys that are doing it as their job. And a lot of those guys started in the early to mid 70s. So if we want the pure hobby where the hobbyists are involved and not the full-time, then I got to go before 1970 or before, mid 70s to early 70s. Well, here's your problem, John. How old do you have to be then in order to have been a collector prior to that? I've aged most of you out. Your average age is now dead. Like a lot of you have aged out of this. I'm sorry. You weren't part of it.
Change is hard to take, and nothing is ever going to be the way it used to be, ever. And nothing's ever going to be the way the last generation was. I had a friend of the family, and he was also a counselor at my college. And he was a wise guy. And he told me one day, and it always stuck with me. He's like, when you say, well, when I was 16, it wasn't like that. And he said, you were never 16. when I was 16.
Yep.
So there's no such thing as we were 16 equally.
Right.
You know, when I was 16, I didn't have to deal with school shootings, and I didn't have to deal with COVID. You know, if you were 16 at that time, it's a totally different experience than being 16 when I grew up. So we're never the same age, and things will never go back, and they probably shouldn't. Things always change, and that's just the way it is. Now, it's not always fun to accept it, and we don't always feel it's for the better. Many times it's not for the better. Absolutely not. But it's the way it is.
You mentioned something there, and I actually had this discussion with my wife, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, when our daughter was still in high school, and, you know, dealing with some of the social media stuff and the way conflict evolves today in the school world. Luckily, both my kids are graduated now. But I actually had the conversation with her because when we were growing up and our parents were raising us and we were in school and everything else, we were taught a completely different thing. If you have a problem with somebody, you know, don't start the fight, but if the fight starts, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was always contained within the school, the playground, the neighborhood, whatever. And like today with social media, it's not contained at all. And I was like, we are living, like, our generation really has lived in so many different changes. You know, we went from having just regular antenna and a wall phone, and then it became pagers and cable TV and, you know, cell phones, and it's just computers, the internet, and just progressive on and on. And now you got all these social media apps and everything else. And it's actually difficult to try to raise kids today because we don't understand some of what they're going through because we never experienced it. So we can't tell them, well, this is how I handled it. This is how you should handle it, because we didn't have to handle it that way. And I think it's the same way, like, everything has changed and evolved a lot.
I think we have the biggest generation gap ever.
Right.
Because, you know, from my grandparents to my parents,
it wasn't a lot.
Maybe they had a microwave and my grandparents didn't, or you know, they had
an automobile.
They had 2 cars and my grandparents only had 1. And then when I came along, like basically the same as my parents, maybe I had a little more than them, and maybe they were able to provide a little more for me than, but we didn't have the technological advances and this big social media boom. And I find social media melts my brain. Like, it makes me a worse person. And so I can imagine what the impact it has on children, you know, who are still being developed. Because I have to shut it down sometimes. It's just toxic, or can be.
If little Susie talks about little Karen, back in our day, it was, you know, passing notes or whatever. Today, it's posted on TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram, and it's all around the damn world. Like, it's not just a note passed one to the other. It's the entire world seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, you remember if somebody had a rumor about somebody in your school, how you felt so bad for them because they had this rumor going around, but it was just among certain people. Like, even the whole school might not even have known.
It might have been now everybody knows. Bathroom stall wall or something.
And the other difference is, you know, I used to I got paddled in school, and my dad always told me, if you get hit in school, you're going to get hit again when you get home. So I wouldn't tell him. And now, I mean, if somebody reprimands a kid, like, they just reprimand them, give them, you know, the parents there wanting to fight the teachers and everything else. It was certainly different back then. Imagine getting paddled today. When I was in high school, I went to a Catholic school, and we had a guy, and he was a big dude, and he had a nub for a finger, a middle finger nub. He was missing a finger, and he was his title was disciplinarian, and that was his whole job. Was if anybody got out of line, to put him in line, and he would get you up against the locker, and he would take that nub and he would squeeze it right into your chest, you know, where you don't have any muscle there, and he would press it and just have you cringing, and he'd get up in your face, and you didn't have a chance to get out of line. But we had a guy dedicated to that. Imagine that.
Well, that's
Of course,
so
we didn't have metal detectors and stuff like that. We didn't have cops at our schools.
so that's what you're talking about though is also what happened once you got into the technology aspect of it is that the speed of it changed because when you
Ooh.
were comparing the generations. So this is I've talked about this. This is a conversation we've had. So I'm going to bring back around the cards. So don't worry, I'm going to bring it back around. But it does actually play into it though. This is actually a point that I made is that now we've still got the old rules of generation, but the acceleration between the beginning and end of one generation cycle has actually messed the whole thing up. Because I talk about where I sit. Basically, I was born in '83, so that's part of the millennial generation. But the problem is you've got this gap from beginning to end. So the very end of the millennial generation, you were born in like 95, 96. They lived an entirely different experience than I did.
Yeah,
We're both
no
technically
doubt.
under that same bucket, but they couldn't be any more different. When I graduated, the iPhone came out the year after I graduated. I spent an entire I finished my university career without the iPhone existing. It did not exist. But immediately after, the iPhone existed. So now, if you start a new cohort, your entire university life is with this machine. And then the cohort after that, you're in high school and you got the iPhone. That's a completely different game and a completely different conversation. But all we are is a year. It's not like somebody born in, the when you got the Generation X cutoff. I always laugh because they got the cutoff. You think somebody born on December 31st one year and the person born January 1st the other year are fundamentally different? 24 hours apart, you think, oh, well, you're a completely different. No, you're virtually the same experiences. You're watching the same things, your same cartoons on TV. You're basically operating this. There's a little bit of a buffer there. Well, when you're right on that line, you're experiencing a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. So you have an experience of all that melded together.
Yep.
So it gives you a little bit of
valid
profile.
point.
Yeah, it gives you perspective. But I think they almost act like it's this hard cutoff. It's like, no, it's not. I'm sorry to tell you.
Yeah, and I think taking it back to cards, I mean, it's important to understand this stuff, to understand where everybody's coming from.
Yep.
The other thing I find today is that like we respected older people, and the way young collectors talk about old collectors is like really bad these days. There's no respect there. Who was it? Your boy from what was that podcast you mentioned earlier? One of them said that he wishes all vintage collectors would die.
Oh, that was the what's it called? It was what's his name who was with Retro Hoops.
And they don't understand the age group, so they call us all boomers, even though none of us are, or few of us are.
Yeah. Well, listen, Brandon fought with Custer. That's different. He's a different conversation entirely.
Jeez.
Like he thinks all you young bucks in your 80s and 90s, he can't relate to. It's a different conversation entirely.
Let's change to top cards. Are star cards legit?
To me, they are. They're licensed cards.
To me, they are.
But kind of to play into, but no, the reason I said the technology thing, I think that's very important. That's why I gave that example earlier tonight about the whole 97, 98. I felt like it was a good mix of the old mixed with the new. You had a little bit of what came before. You were on the cusp of what was about to come, but you didn't know what was about to come. So you had the advantage, but then we still had eBay. So we still had a little bit. We had forums. We had some internet. We could have discussions. It's tough, though, because this is the way I would put it. And so I'll bring it back around to kind of this idea. A lot of people kind of almost fight the technology. They're sitting there, and because there's a lot of things that it causes problems. But then on the other hand, how are we going to have it? We're not having this discussion in 1995 because we can't. We're literally on a live stream right now, talking with the chat and talking with each other on a video call. In 1995, we did not have this technology.
Right.
We physically could not have done this. It was impossible. We could have tried to get on a conference call on a telephone, and the only people are going to hear us is us, and it's kind of awkward. But you can show things. You can have visual cues. You can have some of those aspects of it. And we're in completely 3 different locations and be able to do it. We couldn't do that in 1995. We couldn't do it in 2005. These things were not possible.
Yeah. The other thing is technology. It's not the technology. It's not necessarily these things that are bad. It's the way people use them.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes.
It's like when the airplane came out. You said, I'm going to give you this device and you're going to be able to travel all over the world in no time. But every once in a while, a lot of people are going to die. Would you not have that technology. See, you could say the same thing about a car. Like it's almost like every technology has its sacrifices.
Yeah. Right now we find ourselves in this little cross section, and kind of playing into the other thing we were talking about is that, so what Brandon was mentioning, every single time though, and this is the big difference, to me, the big difference. I remember reading those Beckett magazines. I remember that because if you go to the letter to the editor, there'd be people complaining about this, complaining about that. And a lot of the things they were complaining about were the same things we were complaining about today. But you're only getting one issue a month. So you're getting it in these small doses, and maybe your local shop, a couple of people would gripe about this issue they had, quality control, or some weird thing that happened to them. But today I can get those reports in real time by the second. So every single time Fanatics screws up something or PSA screws up something, whatever, I can find out. I can see 500 examples within about 25 minutes on Instagram. It won't take more than a couple seconds, and it'll be like, oh, this is 50 times worse than it was years ago. Are you sure? Because 20 years ago, we wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have been able to get that information in real time. I wouldn't have been able to get with the speed. Maybe somebody across the country was having the exact same problem, but they just couldn't report it as quickly. They'd tell their buddies, and that'd be about the end of it. Maybe they'd call the company and complain about it. Today, they can tell me on Instagram or on a YouTube video about their experience in complete detail. So is it worse? Maybe, but it's hard for me to tell, John, because it's not an apples to apples comparison. I can't compare it when I didn't have access. I couldn't have seen it 15, 20 years ago, whereas today I can see it. You can share with me in real time in about 50 different ways.
Yeah, I was talking about the different news channels that we have, and you tend to watch the one that you align with, right? And YouTube in some ways is I guess sometimes you feel forced to watch the news channel you're not aligned with, maybe. You know what I mean by that?
Well, I think
YouTube feeds you.
I do.
Yeah.
I do it for any.
Yeah.
So John, maybe I need to teach you my dark secret, which is most channels I really don't care. Like, so for my personality type and everything, I don't really give a crap. However, and I don't know how many people realize this, you do have the option in the YouTube algorithm that you can remove channels from your feed entirely. You never have to see it again.
Well, now I've tried to do that with some big channels. I won't mention their names, but I think if you pay enough, you can't do that, because there are some channels.
I assure you, there are a few channels that have never appeared again.
I don't. That option doesn't even come up with certain channels for me.
Which
I don't want to see this stuff or whatever.
Yeah, I want to be clear. I want to make sure. So when you're selecting the option, which option are you selecting?
Well, you right click on there, right? And it'll say,
yes.
Don't show me this again or something.
Okay, there's a better one. There's a better one.
Okay, tell me.
So hold on, Brandon. Let's do a public service announcement. I've actually done this a couple of times, but let's do it again. Let's do it again for everyone's benefit, for John's benefit, anybody else who needs to know. I'm gonna show how this works. Because obviously if you subscribe to them, this is not the same thing. But if you're not, if it's just a feed, let me assist. Let me show. So I can do that.
Yeah, when I search sports cards, nothing comes up I want to watch. Not a single thing.
All right. So I'll give you an example.
And I
so
can't
this is
get
right here in
the
the regular
things I want to watch because they don't feed them to me.
Yeah, this is the regular feed right here. So let's say for some reason I'm really offended by King of the Cards. I never want to see his stuff ever again. He's at the top. He's in the top left side. I never want to see his stuff again. Got the 3 dots there. Don't recommend channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the channel one. There's also a not interested. It's the channel one that I want. The channel one is the one that knocks it out of my feed. It's channel wide. It's not one vid, because if you do not interested, it's just the one video. Then you'll get other videos.
I have clicked on videos that doesn't come up.
Yeah.
Are you sure it comes up? Like, are you able to? I
haven't encountered one where it's not available.
Are you able to buy advertising that doesn't allow people to do that? All right, pull up Sports Card Investor. Pull up Sports Card Investor.
So to be clear though, I have YouTube Premium, so I don't get the ads, period.
I don't either.
Yeah. So
I have Premium too.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, if you have an example for me, now you have my number, send me an example and I'll look at it.
Okay.
Because that's the best way. I can look for myself and I'll answer that question, but I got to look at it. But I have never encountered one where that option hasn't been available to me. I don't use it that much because for the most part, I don't care. It's completely fine. But realistically, there are a few where I'm like, all right, enough of this guy. And then literally I've done that and I have never seen another one again.
Yeah. All right.
So But we can look at it. I'll take a look at it. Tired of getting videos about writing a will and planning a funeral? I know, Bob. I know. SCD, that's right. Power of the three dots.
I did a video about that.
Yeah. You'd be surprised though how many people that's why I don't mind doing it from time to time. Some people don't know that option is available. And then they'll complain to me over and over again about these shit. I'm like, guys, okay, look, I'm gonna show you. Literally, just do this. And if it really bothers you that much, it's gone. I have never encountered any of the video where I've ever pushed that button. I've never encountered their videos ever again.
Yeah. I would be on there and then I'll refresh and refresh and refresh, and it's the same stuff over and over and over again. They just push you the same stuff.
Yeah. I do use the not recommended and some of it as well. I think what happens is you have to for me, I've used it to try to slowly cultivate my feed as much as I can. Because again, I watch a lot of sports cards videos. I'm happy to watch a lot of them, but some of them get repetitive or they're not of any use to me. So I really want to curate them out of my other feed because I'd rather get other stuff or new stuff. Plus, I've got other interests, so I'd rather not spam my feed with stuff I don't really care about. Like if you're not providing value, then I want something else.
That's the point. When you're searching, like if you have no interest in Pokemon cards and there's a bunch of Pokemon videos coming up, you don't necessarily want that in your feed. It's nothing against the people. It's nothing against those content creators.
Yep. No, I think it's fair. I have the don't recommend channel, the app. No, you don't have to have premium, Zach. I was when John was saying about an ads. That's why I was saying like for ads, premium takes it away. But you should have the don't recommend channel. Period. Whether you're on premium or not, you should have that access to that. All right. So Ziggy here is asking, can you undo that? Not interested. Well, if you do the not interested, it's just for the video. If you do the don't recommend channel, no, you could. So I think if you actually did don't recommend channel accidentally, I think you could probably just manually type in the channel name and subscribe to it. Not that I would want to do that way, but if you subscribe to it, it bypasses it. Then you're doing it yourself. You're doing it manually.
Yeah, there's no way to block anything on there. Like even if you block a person, they could still see all your stuff. They just can't comment.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's a different thing. Yes. But for you on your feed,
you just don't have to see their rude comments.
That's a different thing. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, so it's just for the home. For me, the homepage. If you're just looking at regular stuff in the feed, it's nice to trim it a little bit. That's for me, because sometimes some stuff gets repetitive and it's not of any use. I'm just not interested. So actually, John, if you ever saw my YouTube homepage, they still try occasionally to like throw me news stuff, and I'm like, no, my YouTube channel, I have no interest whatsoever in having anything remotely news related in my feed. So I kill every single one of the channels like that, and that's why I don't have it on the feed. If I really want to look that up, I can look it up myself. I don't need you to recommend anything to me. I will leave my feed for my hobby stuff. That's what I want it for.
Yeah, like I don't enjoy watching graded card reveals, and I get these videos, 270 card grading reveal for 4 hours, or 68 card grading reveal. Oh my God, that would be so torturesome for me. To hear 68 cards in a row and them complaining about the grade and explaining every detail why they got the grade. Oh my God, just put a gun to my head.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that public service announcement helps somebody out, because occasionally from time to time, I've actually gotten comments. Some people didn't realize that was an option. So like, hey, hopefully it helps you. Maybe, but then if you use that, then I don't want to hear one more complaint about it. You don't want to watch Jeff Wilson's videos? Well, there you go. I just showed you how to take it off your feed. Okay. I don't want to hear any more about it. I've done what I can, John, to educate. I've done what I can to help. Use what I just showed, and then move on with your life. Watch other stuff. I got plenty of videos. I got 1,200 videos. Go for it.
Yeah, everybody should watch what they enjoy and brings them happiness. Yes, life's too short to be triggered all the time.
Well, listen, I'll try to tell that to Eric, but he gets very excited all the time.
Sometimes it's just fun to complain.
That's a different thing. That's a national pastime. Carlos Sr.'s favorite hobby is to complain. He knows exactly what he's doing. It's one of the great joys of his life. He goes, no, but I need you to hear about my complaining.
It's therapy too. You just get it off your chest and move on. A lot of times I just make a video, get it off my chest, and I'm done. It's out.
Sounds fair. So let me ask this question. I'm going to start winding her down here because basically it's been good. But John, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you popping on the channel. First time John Mangini's here. I didn't vote for him, but I still appreciate it, and I still happily will engage with you on discussions and topics.
That ballot box was so stuffed.
I basically blame Dan.
No voter IDs were required.
Nope. Not a single one. Mm-mm. All of the personalities were taken into account. Yeah. But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question. I'll leave you with the last word, John. Is there anything, so far right now, is there anything you've got on your chest that you would like to get off your chest? Any thoughts that are percolating in your mind these days?
I was just thinking about this, and for the first time in a long time, I don't have anything on my mind. I'm just at peace with everything.
Ooh.
I think I've finally just accepted everything. Cards are going to go up for the rest of my life every week, and that's that's
Oh,
just
you
the
know
way
what?
it's going
Hold
to
on.
be.
I actually haven't now that you just said that, I have a different question. And actually, chat, I want to ask you this question. It's not going to be too long, but I got a question for you. The whole price thing is real. I talked about it in my video where I talked about what you were talking about. I said, this is one of the challenges. And I agreed with you, but I also kind of presented something that I discussed. I used the example that I had an intention to work on the 53 top set because I do like the set. I genuinely enjoy the set. But I looked at where the price was going. I have the mantle already. It's one of my favorite cards. It's actually my favorite mantle, to be honest with you. I like the 53 tops personally. I'm a big fan of that one. I'm going to keep it. The 53 mantle, honestly, is one of my favorite cards. I'm keeping it. I don't care. But the Jackie's gotten more expensive over time. The Satchel Paige has gotten more expensive over time. The Maze is not an inexpensive card. So the problem is because I hadn't gotten any. If I'd gotten those a couple of years back when I got the mantle, we'd be in good shape right now. Then I would have just continued. I'd proceed. But the problem is now I know how much I'm going to have to commit to it. And it's not that I can't. It's that I've got all these other, I enjoy collecting a broad spectrum of things. So I'm not interested in committing all my energy and resources into one, just to work on one set. I'm not interested in doing that. That's a choice I'm making. I'm saying, no, I'd rather be collecting these other things and enjoy them because honestly, it would be more fun for me to work on these other projects. So we're making compromises. We're doing it all the time. But is there, because there are a lot of guys, so I'll bring this into it. There's a lot of guys who make the videos, and when they're talking up vintage, that's why reason I kind of poke fun at the vintage guys. And again, as someone who's been collecting vintage for 30 years, I am one of you, but I am also not one of you because I can also I can look in a mirror. Like I'm not going to pretend it's something it's not. It can be fun. But if the prices are always going up and you're happy about the fact that vintage doesn't crash and the prices, well, then it gets expensive. At a certain point, it becomes, untouchable for a lot of folks. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me. That becomes a little bit of a problem. So how then do you adapt to that? Because now it just gets more expensive as you go.
Well, that's kind of where I'm at. It's not even, and you hit it on the head. It's not that I can't buy the cards. It's that I'm not willing to spend that on those cards.
Correct.
And this has been killing set collecting because for vintage, I mean, it's just so expensive to put a set together, and you're buying maybe players that you don't even know.
Yep.
For me, I like the obscure stuff. And fortunately, the modern flippers don't know these players. They don't know these sets. And so they haven't gone through the roof yet. It's kind of like collecting Sanella Margarine Babe Ruths 10 years ago.
Yeah,
when
I've used that analogy.
They were $100 and nobody wanted them. And
Yep.
so I'm just focusing on those kinds of cards that I love and I don't have to pay an arm and a leg for. I'll buy some big cards here and there if I feel like I'm getting a deal on it. But I see these cards, flipped 3 times in a week for sale, and a lot of them are on the same venue, so it's not even hidden. I can't tell you how many cards I'll just miss out on. Like I'll be watching a card on eBay, and I might be interested in buying it, but then it sells, and then it's in my my list where I get notified. And it comes up a week later for 3 times as much. And it's just like, this isn't a fun realm to play in anymore. So that's what I'm doing. I'm buying a lot of modern singles, to be honest with you, because those are dirt cheap if they're not the big 1 of 5 RPAs or whatever. You can still buy those very cheaply.
Mm-hmm. So that's where that completely works. It's one way of pivoting and kind of adjusting. I just think
plus I collect football. That's cheap. It's always been cheap. It's still cheap if you stay away from 5 of the biggest cards. And a lot of vintage basketball is the same way. If you stay away from the biggest cards, if you take away like the 200 biggest cards in the hobby, a lot of the other vintage is, that, in my opinion, has actually gotten very more affordable.
I think it's an option. I think it's. I just think it's unfortunate, and this is something I've talked about as well. It is unfortunate. It's a double-edged sword. That's why I said a lot of the guys who were because I remember I listened to videos. I remember people almost bragging that, oh, well, modern is this, unstable thing. Modern will crash. If it's just well, if that's true, then your guys are going to pay 3 times as much. If that's actually what you want, then that's great. But
to be clear, I've never said that.
No, I
I've
understand.
made videos pointing out that the top, aside from the 52 Mantle, the Babe Ruth rookie, maybe some Shoeless Joes, modern cards sell for way more now at these auctions. I see them way more.
I'll have to let Eric know. His entire life is a lie.
There was a 2017 Messi. I was just talking about when I was on live with Pepino. What it sold for like $368,000 in a 9 refractor pop 105 or something.
The mega cracks.
Now you find me a pop 105 vintage card that would sell for anywhere near that, other than the few I just named.
Yeah, pretty much. You pretty much have to be the 52 Mantle. That'd be one of the
it's
few
not
cards.
It's not even close to a rookie card in 2017.
Yeah, makes sense. So thank you, chat. Appreciate you participating in it. So the title still stands. The hobby rolls on. That's why I chose that title. It was very specific because regardless, I knew we were going to talk about some of this stuff tonight. And you see, so Eric is with us in spirit in the corner. He'll be back next week. On Friday, he will be there. And if he's not there, Brandon, holy hell will break loose.
And he better have awards.
I know. He better have awards.
Not just nominations. We want the damn awards, Eric.
Well, he better have everything. Like, I want awards. He better bring donuts. Like, if he doesn't bring something,
it would be chocolate sticks. He considers them donuts because they're
not donuts. Chocolate sticks are what happens when you go to the dog. Chocolate sticks are what happens when you go to the dog park. That's what chocolate sticks are. I don't care what Eric says.
He thinks they're donuts.
He can't tell the difference. He's had too many concussions. That's a lot of things wrong with that boy. All right. So thanks
for having me on, guys.
Absolutely, John. Appreciate you. Have yourselves a good night. We'll catch you on the Friday live stream. That's coming up. And then we'll catch you in the next one. By the way, the next couple of episodes are probably also going to be lives, to be honest with you, just because editor Carlos needs a break. So it'll probably be Monday night lives for the next little bit. I'm informing you in advance. Editor Carlos is probably going to need a little time. So anyway, have yourselves a good night. We'll catch you in the next one.